All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC 316, Dvalishvili versus O'Malley 2, taking a look at UFC Fight Night, Usman versus Buckley. And to do all of that with me, as always, the Ohio player, my co-host, my good friend, and a man who stopped gooning specifically to do this podcast, Chase Parton. How are you, sir?
We are living, obviously with the semen retention, we are doing some very great things in the sporting world. We are having some great advancements with the channel. So I just wanted to give everybody a big shout out who's here right now, let you know that you are loved. And it was a great weekend, so there you
That's
go.
right. Very powerful, I would suspect.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, indeed. All right. Well, we are going to be getting into each and every fight from UFC 316, Dvalishvili versus O'Malley 2. If you are new to the stream, welcome. We will be talking about each and every one of the fights. If you've got something that you want to talk about that does not pertain to the fight that we are talking about at the moment, you can throw it into the chat. We will come back to it at a later time. Just remind us. We'll address it a little bit later in the stream. But to start this whole thing off, UFC 316 Dvalishvili versus O'Malley 2 took place at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. And the unified rules of MMA that had just been updated not too long ago were not in effect on this card. We were in the old pre-updated rule set, so no 12-6 elbows allowed, and the grounded opponent rule was back to the old version of it, where if you had weight down on your hand at the referee's discretion, that was considered a downed opponent. What did you think of all of that going into this card, Chase?
I think it was pretty evident that a lot of people were disgruntled with this rule set change for the time being because the seats were empty as hell. I don't know. That was just my opinion. I was looking in the crowd thinking, wow, there is just front row seats just missing here. Just nobody cares to maybe they're getting hot dogs. Maybe they decided to just hang out in the lobby because what was going on in theory wasn't that awesome, but I thought this was actually a really good time. So
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the next question, I guess, is overall impression of the card, and I thought that this one was pretty great. Honestly, I thought that it was a fun time. I mean, it wasn't necessarily like 10 out of 10, but it was certainly up there. I think we saw a lot of great fights, a lot of good performances, and a lot of needle moving moments. Things that are pushing the sport forward, which is all nice if you can get all of those on one card. So I was happy with this one. I thought it was really good. I mean, I saw what you meant with the being a little bit sparsely populated, but I think it did fill in over time, right? I mean, by the time main event was around, I think that it had filled out pretty sizably, I think.
I think you're probably right about that. I just think on paper, a lot of people they've been talking about the lackluster events of the UFC right now. So I think this one is one that would stick out as to a lot of people. If there wasn't some fan favorites here, you could probably talk about the level of competition on a pay-per-view. So, but I thought it actually played out very, very well.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right though, that the conversation about the quality of events and the number of events, all these kinds of things has been going around a lot lately in the commentary community. So cards like this do help to make the case for there being the amount of content that we get out of the organization. I would say to an extent, at least. I mean, I think that there's also another side of the argument that's like, okay, things like this make sense on for the one side of the extreme, but then you have events like the Blanchfield and Barber card that we just recently have that are an example on the other side of the argument. So, I mean, I think it's just really comes down to like a personal discretion as to how you feel about that in the big picture. But either way, I mean, I always go back to the dude Didgeridoo Dave. Shout out to that guy who said it best. More fighting than less fighting is always going to be good to me. So.
Heck yeah, brother. I do like that mindset. Not gonna lie. Listen. Fights are always great, but when they come to play, I'm telling you, it gets 10 times better. There's a lot of people on this card who were actually here to win some money. Some did not, and we will talk about that. But this one is, I think that in the grand scheme of pay-per-views, I mean, it's over 50. It's over 50. Then like 50% better than some of the other ones. I don't know what you want to call it, but like it's fine. It's not
Yeah,
bad.
absolutely. No. And
Oh,
there's
wow,
Didgeridoo
Didgeridoo
Dave
Dave.
right there. Speak of
Look
the
at that.
devil. Just shouted the
Jesus.
guy out, and there he is. Shout out to him again. But yeah, we will definitely talk about all of the winners and losers and some of the predictions that we got right and wrong. I think we did pretty decently predictions wise on this one. A couple of standout ones that didn't come through, but overall, I think that we called a lot of these pretty fairly correctly here. So we'll get into it. Why not? Let's start it off with first fight of the evening: Markel Medeiros versus Mike Choinsky. I wanted to start this off by saying that, little inside baseball here for everybody, but when I do the watch alongs with Vitz King, I'm over at Vitz King's house for those. And so often I'm driving home very late at night. And generally what I will do on my drive home, because I have about 25-30 minute drive most of the time for that, I will put on Chase's watch along and I'll listen along on my way home just to hear if there's anything that I wanted to pick up or talk about or whatever. And so I happened to pick this fight as the one that I tuned in for that. And just hearing some of the descriptions and things you were saying about Markel Medeiros, you had a lot of strong opinions about Markel Medeiros, sir.
I mean, but I know we're going to get into them, but let me ask you, were any of them incorrect? At the end of the day,
bro,
was I wrong?
It was insanely accurate, and I'm glad that you asked that, because the follow-up that I had to that statement is I want to start off by saying that DC said this during Medeiros' walkout. He said that Medeiros has yet to impress people or himself. And so I wanted to ask, do you think that he achieved an impression this time?
Or are you there's no way DC said this.
He did.
No. I'm going to put my foot down and say that was AI on the mic, because this dude, listen, this dude and Joe Rogan, I want to tell you, listen, this dude and Joe Rogan had the glaze off when it came to Markel Medeiros. They went absolutely ape shit every time
there was
he did
a lot
leg
of
kick.
There was a lot of unnecessary glazing in a couple of times on this card.
We're going to get
certainly
into it,
one
but
of
I
them.
think this was the highlight. I think Joe Rogan, he was partying all afternoon and he came in a real talkative attitude. He sobered up a little later down the card, but he came in here ready to fucking talk about these leg kicks. Oh my God, was this crazy? And DC was no better. That's the crazy part. It's like they were acting like this dude, because you say he has to put on a performance. It's like during the fight, they're acting as if he's putting on the performance of the lifetime. And then they go to the interview and he's like, man, what do you think about that great performance that you just put on? Like, and it's like, oh, no, you fucking did it. No, you fucking did it. Like,
no,
you just fucking yes man the fuck out of this dude. Like,
and I think that when it comes to Rogan, especially for the first fight of the night, he's just happy to be back around fights. It's so infrequent now. He's not going out of the country ever, so it's like he finally gets on the event, on a pay-per-view. He's happy to see people doing anything, which is really what happened in this fight. It was a lot of people doing anything.
I want to get into actually. Okay, so
please start us off.
Yes, so you got to take into account that Markel Medeiros was in a fight. He was in a scheduled bout last week against somebody who was the favorite, who was probably going to beat him. Markel Medeiros faked a tummy ache, pulled out. They gave him an opponent that he can beat the next week because they realized, oh, this is a 10-1 prospect. If DC and Joe Rogan talk about his leg kicks, the world will just love him. And that's exactly what they did. They came in here and they gave him Mark the Shark. I want you guys to understand that this dude is an animal. This dude is really good.
I like Mark.
Mark is really fun. Mark is hilarious. He's got a funny name that you could just be like Mark the Shark. Mark, and it's just like something goofy. And he actually does have decent performances. Like, you can kind of compare him to Gage Young, who's just thrown out in the UFC and has no fucking, like, he has no way to win. He's just against somebody who's going to outclass him. In this, unfortunately, Markel Medeiros did have that advantage, but he's not anything amazing, because you see Mark has so many moments where arguably he should have won the fucking fight, in my opinion. He almost choked about twice. Like, I know Markel defended it well, but like, bro, he had the choke under the neck. I mean, I don't care what you want to say. Like, it was close enough twice. He got him on his back, got the body triangle locked in. Nothing happened, but all it did was prove that if somebody can do that on their short notice debut to you, what do you think one of these mountain guys is going to do? Like, he's just going to grab you and strangle you and rip your neck from your fucking body, dude. Like, I can't believe it.
Oh yeah, well, I mean that really, I think, is the ultimate takeaway of all of this. I mean, I got it all broken down. Whatever, I'll get into some of these.
Yeah,
points,
we're gonna get into
it,
but I just think these are
the overarching point of everything, though, is that it's just like this is now twice we have seen Medeiros in compromising positions, real bad in fights, and against Austin Hubbard, who he's kind of a middling guy, I would say, even if he's not, as advanced in age as some of the other tough returning fighters or whatever. And then now a debuting fighter. It's like Medeiros has shown time and time again that this, as soon as these like entryway fights are out of the equation, like you're building this guy up for a huge fall after all of this.
Yeah, and Markel Maderos, dude, he has nothing very good that is about him because he's one of these guys that in his mind, right? Because he's sitting there and he's talking to his coach the entire time. He's talking out loud. He's trying to have his little showboaty attitude. Like, I hear you. I got you, coach. Like, I know he ain't doing it. Anyway. And then he's coming into the second round after doing absolutely fuck all. And then he's like showboating, trying to get him, he's trying to play the mind games, but he's not doing anything to back that up. So it's really annoying to see. There's that one time, God, I wish I could show you guys the clip. There is one moment where Markel Maderos jumps for a knee, changes in midair, throws a straight, and it is the ugliest combination that you will ever see in your life. And this is the moment where you realize Joe Rogan is in love with leg kicks because he goes, would you look at that, guys? He did a leg kick at the end of it. Like, that's exactly the quote. And he just negates everything that you witnessed, that this dude just went completely, whatever you want. I don't know what he did in midair. It was definitely a bull jitsu move. So it was crazy.
My note for that one was, he did that jump move in the second. Bro forgot what the B button does,
Exactly,
because it looked like he started a combo in the fighting game and then just didn't get the second button press. But yeah, no, I mean, look, so Medeiros starting off this thing had a few good strikes early. I will give him some credit early on in the fight. He had a nice spinning side kick to the body that I thought was pretty well executed.
That he whiffed the other 2 times, I just want to tell you.
Fair, but I mean, at least he landed the first one. He landed a couple of decent ones in the first round. Choinsky had the backpack, the first backpack, only to let it go without any benefit. So I said Medeiros took that first round barely. I mean, like, Choinsky was like starting off. It was like one of those things where it's like, if you have two paths that the thing could have gone down, and if either one of them had been like working their way towards like something better, it would have been okay for both of them that first round, because it was like, all right, you saw that Choinsky's got a wrestling base. They the walkout talking about how he's like a Wisconsin wrestling guy. Like, you can definitely tell that wrestling is his strong suit. Striking was not there really for him, Choinsky. But so it's like, if he had stuck with it a little bit like more effectively, there might have been something for him a little bit later on. So the first round, it's like, okay, Medeiros takes it, but what's going to happen next kind of thing. Choinsky not mixing in the other martial arts very well. The kicks seriously start to add up for Medeiros, though. I mean, he dropped Choinsky off leg kicks multiple times. This dude needs to learn how to check leg kicks for real if he's going to stick around in MMA. Yeah.
I actually would like to interject right there. We've seen plenty of people who just don't check leg kicks through their entire career. Somehow they're okay. Like, they're just like they somehow can make it to the high level with just never checking kicks. I don't know how.
And they need to do the Tony Ferguson kicking tree trunks or something, man. Get those legs a little bit stronger to take them better,
Yep, I agree. Continue.
Medeiros. Well, so and then this is actually an interesting note I wanted to get your opinion on too, because I had it as the part of the breakdown. But Medeiros, we talk about a lot of times where fighters don't capitalize on obvious weak points and vulnerabilities. Medeiros, on the other hand, did do that because he recognized that the leg kicks were adding up. He stomped on the compromised leg of Choinsky. However, DC later on in the broadcast saying that the stomping motion was not a legal strike. So what does that mean?
What does it mean? I'll tell you exactly what it means. It means Chase knows what he's talking about, because the moment that happened, I said, holy shit, that was illegal as fuck. And then I knew, because nobody else really cared. They were like, man, that was fucking great. Did you see how he stomped the inside of his leg? I'm like, yo, what do you stomped the shit out of it? What are you talking
Herzog
about?
certainly didn't care. It was Jason Herzog was the referee.
And so when Dean Thomas, they were like, we just asked Dean Thomas just came on air and he told us that was an illegal move. I was like, am I the only one who knows the rules? I don't even care about the rules half the time, because you can break the shit out of them. But like, that was blatant. Like, that was blatant. So I
Well,
don't
yeah, see, because Herzog didn't do anything about it, I thought that maybe a stomping motion to the legs or to the, like, I didn't realize that it was indeed illegal, but play
Dude,
on, I
stomps
suppose.
would be fucking OP if they were legal to the body or not to the head. They would still be OP as shit to the body
Yeah,
or
right.
legs. Like if I could just hold your leg down and fucking like I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah,
whatever.
but either way, so I mean, credit to him for recognizing that you should attack the compromised part of the body. At least I'll give him credit for that. Maybe not the way to do it, but we talk a lot about fighters where it's like you got them hurt, you know exactly where they're hurt. Go back to that. So I at
Mhm.
least give Medeiros a little bit of credit there. Choinski eventually gets his way with the wrestling in the third, but it was too little, too late. If he had power in his hands and struck more accurately and just a little bit more technically polished, I think that Choinski could be somewhat of a problem. But either way, in this fight, there were just a lot of like low IQ moments, low fight IQ moments from both these guys. And I just chalk this up to another dumb win for Medeiros, who is pretty much, and this I think is my most galaxy brain take of this, is that Markel Medeiros just goes over to PFL, enter the PFL tournament, brother, you will go far in PFL.
Mhm.
But
But
after this, you're setting him up for a huge fall.
yeah, because that's all. I mean, listen, that's $500,000 now. He's only losing the opportunity to make 500,000 at this point. It's not going to be 1,000,000. It's not going to be half at this point. You better hurry up and lose your contract with the UFC and jump over there. It'll be, a quarter of a million by the time you get there.
It's dwindling
That
by the day, huh?
hey, listen, that's what's got to happen. But that's fine. So Markel Medeiros, coming off of what was it, 3 wins. Thank you. Shout out to a big Onk. Him and Jordan Levitt, I think would be awesome because I would win so much fucking money off submission. I would put everything on Jordan Levitt by submission. That is going to be. I like guys. If this happens, holy shit, we are rich. Everybody, we are rich. We're going to Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, and as far as Mark Chonsky goes, like I think that there might be something there. Like not necessarily like a world ender guy, but I do think that there's a possible future for him in the organization. He just needs to tighten up a couple of things and work on the fight IQ, which goes for both sides. Because I mean, like what I had said towards the end of that fight during the watch along is that there were times for both fighters when a change of strategy in the moment would have been something that could have seriously pulled them out ahead and been like, okay, definitive win for this guy. And neither of them had the wherewithal to take that left turn. And so I think that if maybe if Choinski ends up getting a little bit more, a little bit more ensconced, a little bit more situated in this sport, comfortable in what he's doing, there's potential for him to do that. Medeiros, I think, is just kind of stuck in being who he is right now, and I think it's going to take a hard fall for him to realize that a course correction is necessary.
Yeah, no, definitely fuck him. We're don't worry about him. Mark, on the other hand, I think this is diamond in the rough territory.
Could
This is
be.
one of these guys. Look, you look at his record, 8-0. He just dipped out on the promotion that he was at for the opportunity to be in the biggest, stage of them all on short notice, and he took the guy to decision and got his ass whooped. I mean, really. I mean, that's what happened on the feet, unfortunately. But I I don't dislike Mark. I think he might have potential to be a real gritty guy that can give you a couple good wins in the organization. He's not going to be no champ. Hate to break anybody's bubble there from Milwaukee or wherever this guy's at. Uh, it ain't gonna be championship level. I do not believe. But he is somebody that you could root for a couple wins when it's somebody that you know is overrated. Like, oh, Mark will be able to give it to him. This is a war that he has to like get through. I think that is a good one.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think too, when it comes to him having a solid wrestling base, it's like that's fine. Mix in the other martial arts a little bit more. And then also, if you're going to go wrestling heavy, then be able to advance positions and get yourself to where you want to go with the wrestling. Like have
Mhm,
a solid roadmap to victory with that. And then it's just about following the motions and going with what your opponent gives you and all that kind of stuff. Like, I mean,
mhm.
have a mentality that says, okay, wrestling is what I'm coming in with, wrestling is what I'm strong with, I'm going to do the things that a wrestler needs to do to get the job done, and then see what you get back and then you can get a victory there. And actually, I think that what we're talking about in this fight kind of leads us really nicely into the next fight for a number of these same points, which we'll get into it in a second here. But
I agree. I'm ready to get into that next one.
all right, well then there you go. So I mean, to finish off this first fight, again, another dumb win for Medeiros. The downfall is coming sooner than later, people. I mean, like, and I'm not preying on it because it's like I don't know the guy too well. He doesn't seem like a bad dude. He did seem a little bit cocky for what he was doing in this fight and what he accomplished. It's like you might have wanted to be a little bit more humble with the fact that you even eked out a victory here. But I would just think that exactly like you said, you get him up against a mountain man, you get him up even against a smaller guy who's faster. I think that there's going to be a big, hard drop off for Medeiros because he is just not great.
I agree. 100%.
All right. Well, then without further ado, let's get into this next one here. Quillen Salkeld versus Inal Ashmuz. This is before I get too deep into the nuts and bolts on this one. I did want to say you're going to hear the term handshake agreement fight coming from me on a couple of these. I want to explain that just a little bit because I think I use it on the podcast. We got a couple of new listeners and stuff. What I mean by a handshake agreement fight is basically when one fighter has a definitive strategy that they are either known for or are using in a fight that's pretty obvious to anybody who's observing it, and the opponent feeds into that. Basically, one fighter is going to stick out their hand and say, I'm fighting this way. The other guy reaches back with his hand. They shake. Okay, this is the type of fight that we're doing. So just wanted to put that point out there for anybody who's new to the show.
Okay. Well, I actually would like to start this fight, start this discussion of the fight by saying that Quillen Salkeld has answered all of the questions that I think I've needed to see from him. He actually looked like an amazing fucking prospect in this. I handshake fight, whatever you want to talk about, dude. This was one of the greatest performances that I think I've seen from a dude. I know the judging don't say it, but like, dude, Quillen looked fucking great. Like, I don't know, like he was awesome, on fire.
Well, I mean, then the follow-up point, with my little description there is generally a handshake agreement in a fight is not a good thing. But in this instance, this was Quillen Salkeld saying, Ashmuz, you want to grapple, you want to wrestle, let's do it. And it worked out really great for him. So good for him to take the handshake on this one.
Yeah, no, and Quillen is like massive as a lightweight. I don't even know how this dude makes weight. I mean, for him to be so giant, and to be so deadly with his wrestling. I mean, Chase Hooper is also somebody who's kind of long and lanky for the lightweight division and has great grappling. And it's kind of it's hard to get around him because his limbs can kind of, reach around you from so many different angles, and he can switch the position. And if he's able to scramble like Quillen and Chase in this example, like it's a deadly combination. And when you have somebody who is on paper has not on paper, but in reality has knocked somebody out in 30 seconds. I mean, there's always the threat, like maybe he could do that to me. I'm still debating if the striking is going to be, at the level that it needs to be outside of one instance. But I think all the questions have been answered after this, in my opinion. Like Quillen looked great. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, for playing the game that Ashmuz wanted to play, Salkeld did really nicely. His transitions were nice, able to negate Ashmuz's positional changes really well, landed some strikes when he could, which I'm like, my thing always when it comes to grapple heavy fights, wrestle heavy, grindy fights like this is that you got to also get the shots where you can, like, because we see so many times, and that's what, when people are upset and complaining about very clinch heavy and wrestle heavy performances, and fights, that's what they're complaining about, is that it's the lack of activity of the actual engagement of the fighting that makes it boring. But I thought the Quillen did really nice to make sure that when they're on the ground and you're trying to get to from one position to the next, you still land a couple of the side of the head. It goes a long way. It really does, especially over the course of all of the rounds, if it's going to be that way for the entirety of the fight.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there wasn't many other I mean, the whole fight was a big moment in my opinion, but like I can't really remember any two big moments other than the big slam that Quillen had. I don't really think it was anything more than just a great performance all around. I can't really say that I'm trying to think of the way to say it. Like Ashmuz obviously was just somebody that I thought was going to be a tough performance for Quillen. So the fact that he got past him so easily, I mean, 29-28 for two judges is pretty ridiculous. This was probably 30-27 across the boards, at least in my opinion. but gosh,
Yeah.
hold on. Can I say it
So
one
yeah,
more
please.
time?
No, of course. Yeah.
Quillen is really good. Really good.
I mean, I think that I'm on the same page with Didgery Dave here saying that, he might need a little bit more experience, that kind of thing. The work obviously has been paying off for him that he's already done. So I'm good with that part of it. But yeah, Quillen's looking nice. Ashmuz did have him hurt in the third round. He landed a couple of shots that I didn't really even expect Ashmuz to be able to pull off. But Salkild recovered pretty well. I also did think it was pretty funny in that third round that DC was giving some coaching advice from the commentary booth, and Quillen listened to him. So I was like, hey, I mean, get it.
You've brought that up before.
Yeah,
This is the
exactly.
only sport where this is, something that happens. It's a reoccurring thing.
Pretty crazy, right? But there you go. I mean, and good for him to take that and run with it. Ashmuz should have threw the kitchen sink at him in that third round, but he might not have had the energy by then because of how wrestle heavy this thing was. It was definitely a grindy affair. Not too many standout moments because of all of the back and forth of the trading of positional exchanges, that type of thing. But at the end of the day, Quillen really did show that he's got the power. He showed it from the last fight. He's got the power in the hands. And now if he can do this and continue to do this against, decently accomplished and credentialed fighters, then a great future ahead of this kid.
Yeah, I mean, he's got, I'm going into his fights. It's like he's somebody who's got knockout power. He's got wrestling. I mean, it's just what threat does he bring with the wrestling other than just, being able to control you? And then, after he's able to put you down, or if you do get put down by him, what's the recovery situation going to look like from him? I don't know. These are some other questions that I guess could be answered later on, but as of right now, I'm ready to just see what's next. I mean, Big On threw some options in the chat, but I don't know. You guys, I'm not the matchmaker sometimes, but Mike Davis may be somebody on the hit list.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I see the ones that he had put in there. I'm okay with all of those as suggestions. You had Salkild versus Mike Davis, Ashmuz versus Mahashate. Those both sound fine to me. I like it. Really, like now you get into the question of like, what do they do with Salkild because Australia, B, age, young guy out of Australia. Do they hotshot? This is going to be one of the things that the organization is going to consider. A step up like Mike Davis might be something that, at least from a fan perspective, that would be a real big win, I would say, because I'm pretty high on Mike Davis, even with his last performance, but there were some weird circumstances to that one. Yeah, I mean, like I'm with Chase though. It's like I'm not the matchmaker. It was really more a matter of what they want to do with what they have, because now
Yeah.
they're probably starting to recognize dude's 9-1, looking good and now able to do all everything really. If he can stand and strike and has power in the hands and can do all that wrestling, a lot of options.
Yeah, 100%. Unfortunately, there wasn't too many memorable moments from this other than Quillen doing his thing. So I wish there was more to say other than I'm just excited to see what happens in this next one.
True. Yeah. The only other
Ash Moose did let me down, though. I guess I'll say that.
Yeah, not honestly. I didn't really feel let down. I think that this was one of the instances where it was a pretty accurate prediction going into this from what we had talked about last week, where it was like, yeah, Shmoose is going to try to tie him up a whole bunch. Now, I did not expect Quillen to go toe for toe with the wrestling, but I mean, it was definitely the game plan was as expected from Ashmuz. I think that it was very impressive that Quillen was able to negate it, overcome it, and again with that handshake agreement thing, it's like, okay, you want to play that game, I'll play that game. I'll be better than you at that game. That speaks volumes to me.
True. I agree. This was a good one.
Yeah, I did think it was kind of funny, though, that this being the second fight of the evening, John Anik said that this could potentially be in the fight of the night conversation. It's like, all right, John, maybe you want to rein that one in just a little bit, buddy.
Yeah, these guys come into the prelims and they are just so hopped up. Like
They're hot.
nuts.
They're coming in hot for sure. Yeah. But either way, all right, let's move on to what I mean. Talk about fight of the night for that last one. This possibly knockout of the year contender over here. Ju Sang Yu versus Jeka Sarangi. I mean, brother, this was one of the cleanest knockouts in recent memory for sure. It's gonna be tough going up against Mauricio Hufi with the spinning wheel kick knockout, but still put it on the list. We'll talk about at the end of the year because this knockout for you was something else.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have a very you have a very good knockout on your hands here. This is unfortunate because I'm a very big fan of Jekka. Jekka
Yeah.
was somebody who, when I first started watching representing Indonesia, he came in and got a knockout. And it was actually after a decent grappling scramble. So it made me had hope that, okay, the skills are there. He's just got to have the right opportunity. And I think he's had the right opportunities. You know, Weston Wilson was definitely the right opportunity to capitalize. But then you come into this one, you have a 9-0 prospect who I definitely did not think was going to be the one to stand and trade. His nickname coming in is Zombie Junior, right? Little Zombie, something
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
And I hate to break it to you guys, he might be 10 times better. He might be 15 times better than the Korean Zombie because this guy flatlined Jekka in, what was it, 28 seconds? Holy shit. Like, golly, man. Oh,
Yeah. I mean, the boxing obviously is there for this guy. Didn't know too much about him coming into this one, except that he was coming in without being road to UFC, not on Tough, not on the Contender Series, which in this day and age does speak its own volumes, in my opinion. It's like obviously they see something in this dude that they don't need to see anything else before they're gonna give him the shot at the big stage, at the big show.
mhm.
So he certainly proved that that was valid for him here. I mean, first strike of the fight for you. This was what happened here. Jekka was reaching for an overhand. You slips the shot, lands the short range counter left while in motion. This is the biggest note for me on why this is so amazing. Neither foot was on the ground at the same time as the other when the shot was thrown and landed. That's so impressive, man. I mean, the amount of power that you have to generate in order to knock someone out, period. And then to be able to do that on your back foot with one foot in the air. This guy is a problem.
I think naturally I'm a hater, and we got to be devil's advocate here. I want to I want to just say that maybe I had a miscalculation for Jekka. This dude is somebody who just walks in and spams hooks and just throws punches as hard as he fucking can, no matter where the opponent is. That's all he does. I'm gonna have to see you go up against a quality striker. I don't. Jekka has power, no technique whatsoever. There's nothing there that makes you believe that he can stand with the big dogs because he literally walked in through landed 2 strikes and got flatlined. And I'm talking face down on the mat for like 5 minutes,
Oh,
just like
he
laying
was
there.
corpsed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. I mean, I want to see Ju Yu up against a Mexican now because I want to see if this dude's boxing can transcend.
Hmm.
I mean, when it comes to Jekka, obviously, look, it was an extremely well placed shot. It was really a perfect strike. So I mean, that can take out anybody. But now the question does come into play. It's like, how is he just a glass chin? I mean, like, will you be able to do that, replicate that against anybody else? Somebody who's going to be a little bit more cautious, more careful with keeping their guard up, all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of questions that arise now. This is almost reminds
Right.
me of like a Contender Series fight in a way. You know what I mean? It's like, now we've seen this guy do it in his debut. What's he going to be able to do up against like the big dogs here? So I'm going to need to see a little bit more out of him before I want to go too deep into the praise. But he does have a knockout of the year contender on the resume, so that's already a very promising sign.
I know the chat is probably going to get pretty jealous that I keep calling out Big Onk and his great ideas here, but a David Martinez matchup sounds really cool because that's somebody who also just jumped into the spotlight and just impressed us instantly. Ju Sang Yu with the knockout of the year contention, he's obviously somebody who you don't obviously want to put 2 prospects who are like rising up against each other, but I think this might be perfect level of like dark horse potential that you could put them up against each other for a banger fight in the early stages of the career.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, really, what we end up getting at when all of these prospects finally end up sorting themselves out coming into the organization is like, you start shaving off some of the ones that aren't stacking up. So like going forward, there's probably going to be a couple that make sense in that regard. I forget what weight Gene Masamoto fights at, but like
45.
some yeah, oh yeah, okay. Well, I mean then I mean, someone like that might make sense too. I mean,
Mhm.
like, but again, it's like, because it's the same point that you're making. It's like, oh, these guys are early on. So it's like, you don't want to like derail either of their potential successes. But the more that these guys start to weed themselves out, and what's left over is the cream of the crop rising to the top, then these potential matchups are going to make themselves eventually. Older guys shuffling out, new guys coming in. So a lot of these, whether or not it's like the next fight to make, they still might running into each other down the line just because of the
Mhm.
nature of the sport. So
Yeah, I agree. So we'll see, but exciting future for Mr. Yu here. We have a couple different Yus, and they're all decent. I appreciate all of them.
yeah, no jujitsu from this you, but
Exactly.
none needed. Way to make a statement in his debut. This Zombie Junior gentleman wants to bring that belt back and hand it to the Korean Zombie, and I give him a lot of props for having the prepared statement on the phone for the translator. He didn't need any translation. Translator had it all written down in the phone.
That is pretty good. I normally don't catch the interviews. There's some that I pick and choose to listen to. Might have ran to the bathroom on this one, but that is pretty epic. I'll give you that.
Yeah, this dude was pretty confident and had a lot of praise for the Korean Zombie, as he should. Um,
Came out to a song too.
They did. Yeah, I thought that might have been a little bit much. Personally, I was like, okay, but I know that you're doing it in a respectful way since you're his protege and all that, carrying the torch, so to speak. But you might want to differentiate yourself just a little bit more with that. Whatever, it's not.
Fights nothing like him. He's just a fucking absolute killer. Like he is actually the protege version of what you would, when you're the mentor, it's like this is the protege supposed to be 10 times better than you. That's exactly. If he is actually the Korean zombies, like, he is, but like if he's the right hand kid, like under his wing, like it makes sense. Like you always get better than the person that came before you. So
That's right. Korean Zombie walked so that you could run.
exactly. Thank you.
Perhaps. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll see what we see from him going forward. Let's move on to this next one here. Ariane De Silva versus Wang Tong. De Silva misses weight by 6 pounds, folks. 6 pounds due to, at least by her team's description, a benign tumor on her pituitary gland. De Silva forfeits 25% of her show money and would have forfeited 25% of her win money had she won as well. I thought that was interesting. Do you think that is a good way for them to handle weight misses, especially weight misses this large, Chase?
We'll have to see how it depends on if they actually win. Like if Irene De Silva actually won, I would be mad that she walked away with a robbery more than I would be like, but at least she's broke. At least she's broke now. Like fuck, like that's cool. I don't
Sure.
know. But eh, I don't know. We'll see. If
All
they
right.
do, if they do win, it should be like ha ha ha, this now you get fucked because you missed weight. I'm taking it now. Don't tell them beforehand, hey, if you win, we're taking 25%. It's like if they win, that check, that big old cardboard check that they get when they walk back there, that should say minus 25%. And they should be like, they should be confused as shit. And they fucked around with the business. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different versions of like what people think should be the appropriate way to handle weight misses, this and that. Anik was saying on the broadcast he thinks that taking a point off the top would be one way to do it, and I'm like, it seems
We've
pretty
heard it,
extreme, but it's like, I mean, I don't know. I think that what needs to happen is that there needs to be some action taken, period, and then we just assess. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like, because nothing's ever going to change unless they actually just take the initiative to make the change one way or another, whether people like it or not. Think about it with the new gloves. Remember that?
Yeah.
We all have, we're so far past it now that it seems like years ago, but it's really
The
not that
old
long
gloves,
ago.
buddy.
That's what I mean. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But it's like, so think about that though. We went to the new gloves. New gloves did not work out. People didn't like them. Fewer knockouts, yada. You remember the whole story there. What happened? Went back to the old one. So I think that with weight misses and how to handle that, like there needs to be some change, period, and then we can decide.
Mhm. I agree.
Anyway,
I
that's just a side note. But
it's an age-old question. We're gonna go over that shit over and over again. Every time somebody misses weight, we're gonna have that conversation.
sure.
They're probably not gonna change anything about it because there's probably no real method to fix it as of right now. I mean, until they figure out something better, until people start, I think my method is actually better. If Irene De Silva if they didn't tell her off rip, oh yeah, you're losing money. If she just goes into the fight, misses weight, and after the fact, she has to go tell her team like, guys, I didn't make the fucking money to pay us. Like I don't know. I shouldn't have missed weight, I guess. Like there's no other option. Like if you went out and won a fight and your paycheck comes short, but you missed weight, are you curious why it would be short? Like I don't know. That's just my opinion.
I mean, I
Dana's
think
just
that
for
they
fucking him over a little more, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, because it's right. Because I guess at the end of the day, it's like she did only lose 25% total now, because she
mhm.
did, but then she didn't win any additional at whatever. I don't know. It's like I said, we can spin our wheels all over the
We
place.
got to
But
get into this
yeah, I
fight
say let's
because
get
I
into it though.
I think you got to understand right off rip. The funniest thing to note is look how red Irene De Silva's character is on here. She got her fucking ass whooped, bro. I have never seen it look like that. So that should just tell you how great of a performance Wang Tong just put on right here. This
I
was
didn't,
hilarious.
I didn't even see that before you said it. For anybody who's just listening to the show, on ESPN, they do the heat maps of the body, and Irene De Silva is just bright. She is cherry red from
There's
head to toe.
fuck that is hilarious. Yeah, Wang
That's really
Tong.
funny.
This was one of the craziest decisions I made because, when it comes to Josh Van Fight Week, I don't normally bet. At least as of the last weekend, I don't normally bet when Josh Van fights because I just want to have fun. I don't want to lose money on Josh and then be upset. So Wang Tong was going to be the first leg that I was thinking about putting. I was going to put her by decision, and this is why I'm upset because I figured with the weight miss, she's going to have a little extra cardio. No way she's going to get finished by Wang Tong because Wang Tong's a little more passive now. She's got to get a little confidence and then she'll start finishing people again. But this fight right here, damn well should have been a finish. I don't know why the fuck Wang Tong stopped kicking her in the damn legs, but she honestly did start eating the leg kicks about round 3. I don't know how she fell round 2 and round 1, but round 3 she definitely ate them a little better. So I don't know what happened there. Another
Yeah.
example of somebody who just doesn't fucking check leg kicks, but magically walks through it at the end of the day. I don't know. So
Yeah. Well, and this also is another example of a handshake agreement fight because if you were watching the broadcast, all of Irene De Silva's pre-fight highlight reel footage was her submissions, yet barely any takedown attempts at all in this fight. What were you thinking? What were you thinking trying to go toe to toe with a woman who has beaten Valentina Shevchenko in kickboxing? This was a crazy game plan over here. I see Didgeridoo Dave saying that the team is responsible for weight misses in the chat. The team is responsible for this game planning as well. And this was about as poor game planning as you possibly could have imagined for De Silva here. Hands and legs in motion early for Wang Tong, pulled ahead in the striking from the start of this thing.
yeah, no, this one I mean, another one where it's a performance that I expected, so there's not too much to say because the only other big moments were that she kicked the shit out of her legs and she fell down a couple times. Should have been finished. I think the ref could have stopped it, but it was a great performance because we got to see another round of Wang Tong. She didn't actually look as good as she did in her previous fight. She didn't get to that flow state. She didn't turn up, but she was still landing everything. There was moments late where she got a little rocked and she was a little passive. She was getting tired, so the strikes were landing and having more effect. But I mean, she navigated to the finish very well. I love Wang Tong.
Yeah, no, same. I to the point about the leg kicks, because yeah, basically what happened was that she was chopping away at the legs from the start of the fight, and it started to really add up in that second round. And then by the third round, she sort of just was able to muscle her way through it amazingly. But in the second, she did nearly get finished. De Silva did by the leg kicks, and this is one of the rare times because you'll often hear us on this show saying that like if your opponent is compromised and they're on their back, step back and let them stand up. This is one of the very rare instances where keeping her on the ground might have been the wiser move if she could have like grabbed a leg and chopped away at it or just kept kicking at it from a little bit of distance.
Or stomped on it,
Well, I mean, obviously, if it's legal, then go for it, right? I mean,
Mhm.
or if the referee's not gonna call it in any way at all, then yeah, I mean, catch as catch can. But yeah, this might have been one of those few rare instances where like leaving her on her back and just chopping away at the legs could have ended the fight because I mean, like you said, it was very close to being stopped already, and I didn't realize that there were so few leg kick finishes in women's MMA, but this would have been amongst very rare company in that. I think that they were saying there's only one other one that I think Amanda Nunes has. So
Wow.
That would have been a pretty nice addition to the highlight reel for Wang Tong, but didn't go that way. Either way, very solid performance across the board for Wang Tong. Would have been nice to see the finish, and probably should have gotten the finish based on what we were seeing in this fight. But either way, it doesn't take away from the effectiveness of what she was doing.
This is actually great. You have to understand how great this is for Wang Tong and for us as betting guys, because Wang Tong on paper, she goes into her next fight. Oh, she's coming off another decision. Little do they know, she had just got a leg kick TKO basically
Right.
after, in her debut, got a fucking knockout with a two-shot combo, and then she, gets finished or whatever you want to say, but then she comes back, has a decision where she puts on a masterclass, and then she gets a leg kick TKO. Like, you just got to be there to know. So going forward, you just know how dangerous Wang Tong is still on the feet. Like, she is just that good. Will she develop the grappling? She does seem very adamant to be like a contender and like, I want to take this sport serious. So I think that is very great for her benefit, because she is still very young. Whether she is actually young, she looks fucking young. So her body looks physically in good shape. And I think there's great things in her future still. We'll see what actually happens though.
Yeah, I would like to see her continuing to put the hands on to the point of actually getting knockouts, because we say time and time again as well that, like, if you are a woman with knockout power, you instantly get noticed and you instantly stand out from the pack. So go out there and utilize the skill set that you have effectively and actually get those finishes. You'll shoot your own star up. I mean, your stock raises instantly every time that you're knocking anyone out.
I think you need to hear me out here. And this is
Yes.
going to be a little crazy.
All right.
I think Wang Tong is a superior talent to who I'm about to tell her to take notes from. But I think the person that she could take notes from does what she does. And I think she has a higher ceiling because of what she's doing now. So you have someone like Luke Boonmi, who is as a Muay Thai girl, but she knows how to wrestle now. She knows how to grapple, and she's using that to her advantage, not just being able to use the stand up. Wang Tong is absolutely far superior when it comes to the stand up and what she can do on the feet. But will she ever adapt the ability to wrestle and bring women to the mat? I don't know. Luke Boonmi, though, the ceiling might be a little higher, because now you're like, oh, will she develop a sub game? Oh, will she go back to the striking? Oh, will she just muscle the fuck out of these? Whatever you want to say. There's a lot of different facets to the game now going forward, I think.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and I'm with it. Yeah, I mean, become a full, well-rounded mixed martial artist. It's the most important thing that you can do in this sport, really. I mean, like, at the end of the day, I do believe that 100%, because we've seen so many times with men and women where it's like, you have one solid skill set. Mark Joinski is fine. We were just talking about him. You know what I mean? You come in with something that you're really, really confident in, but you have to have everything, and it's a tough sport for that reason. It's like, you can't be a pinch hitter in MMA.
Yeah, no, I agree. Wang Tong, obviously, just one of the better female prospects. So I'm really excited to see more. And with performances like this, it's like, okay, get on Monday and start figuring out when the next fight is. If you're ready for championship, if you're wanting championship aspirations, you're after a win, you didn't take any damage, and you whooped her ass. You better get back in that business room.
Yeah, well, I mean, and we're going to talk about a couple of people coming up who have made some quick turnarounds on their activity. So stay tuned. But let's move on here. Well, before we move on to the next fight, I did want to at least acknowledge it was very nice to see Frankie Edgar on the prelim opening promo package, doing a little video promo for this great state of New Jersey where this event took place. So shout out to Frankie Edgar, the legend.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll bring up the other celebrities that we had on the cams, or did you have notes for that later?
Well, he was in the promo package. It was a
Well,
pre-recorded thing, but when
we had another one later too. I don't know if you had notes about the Mark Kerr, the Smashing Machine.
Oh, well, yes, of course. Yeah, that is certainly in the notes. That
Okay,
Mark Kerr
we'll get into that one. I don't know if you also wanted to note that Mike Tyson was here. He was in a pink suit. And I'm trying to think. There was actually some more. There was actually a lot of popping people in New York. Oh, Diego, I think, was also there, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But either way, there was a lot of people there. We'll talk about the Mark Kerr one later. But yes, we'll go on to the next fight.
All right. Well, then the next fight is Chaos Williams versus Andreas Gustafsson. You've heard us talking about Andreas Gustafsson a lot on these last couple of episodes because, as you may remember, he was supposed to fight a couple of weeks ago and he got shuffled around. Opponent got shuffled around and he ended up getting over to this card. And now we finally got to see what he can do in the organization. And ladies and gentlemen, Andreas Gustafsson is a legitimate beast.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out which Tops pack has his debut patch in it because this guy is an animal. You give him 2 years. I mean, that's the max that his career could be at the height of it right now because he's going to start declining. I know he doesn't want to believe it. He's a young man at heart. He's got the Viking spirit, whatever you want to say. But realistically, this is the type of dude you have to skyrocket. You have to give him 2 opportunities and then a 5-rounder and then whatever you want after that, whatever you want to qualify. But at welterweight, this dude is fucking massive. Like I thought
Huge.
this dude was I thought he was an 85er. I thought he was a middleweight, but the fact he's a welterweight is pretty fucking nuts. And the way that he fights, again, he's a madman. Chaos Williams is not somebody that's good. I hate the fact if anybody in the chat put money on him because I knew it was a bad bet. Gustafsson should have got a finish here. I'm surprised he didn't. Will give Chaos Williams some respect. He did take an ass beating very, very well. He looked like he was down on himself, but he took it well.
Yeah,
Go
no,
on.
this was one of the Galaxy Brain predictions from you here, Chase, on this one. I mean, I think we both kind of were in the same boat with it, but
100%.
it's talking about Chaos Williams, just sort of being a bit of a middle of the road kind of guy. I think that this very well proved that, and that I mean, Gustafsson is just a different kind of animal. I mean, he got a hold of Williams within the first 3 seconds of this fight and didn't let go for the entire fight unless it was to punch Chaos in the face. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just crazy to see the relentlessness of this performance from Gustafsson. I mean, the pace that he was keeping for being such a big guy too. I mean, it's like you said, he's massive and able to keep the cardio up. It was exhausting watching what he was doing out there just throughout most of this. I mean, Williams did himself no favors either, though, because he had his hands low and his chin out early in this fight. Like, Buddy took 3 long-range shots directly on the face because of it. And the accuracy from Gustafsson at that range, it's kind of crazy because he is like a brawly sort of dude. He talks about how he's like the least technical fighter on the roster. Whatever he lacks in technicality, he makes up for in the brawl because it's like no tape study, no game plan, all press and throw. But either way, he's making that work for him, and it certainly was on display here, man. Because on top of all of the damage, Williams was gassed out by round 2.
I mean, I agree. There's a reason that people just do not want to fight him. They keep pulling out for some undisclosed reasons. He hasn't been able to find a fight. Also, mind you, he had a broken frickin' neck at one point. So this guy is a true fucking Chad. And I think this is just one of the great performances that, again, you just got to know because people will look at it and be like, oh, who's this guy? He's coming off a unanimous decision. Maybe people, to those casuals, they'll be like, ooh, Chaos Williams, like that's a good win. But in our mind, you know that he's still smashing fucking faces and crashing knees into sternums, elbowing, cutting people's faces. Like the dude was wearing so much of Chaos Williams' blood. And that's just, I mean, he's just a fucking Chad. Like I told you, he's got the strangle game plan. He just wants to grab you and just choke the shit out of you, but not really choke you, but just like, I don't know how to explain it. It's not a choke strangle. It's a grab onto you and never let you go type of strangle, like a
Yeah,
shake you like a bully type thing.
absolutely. Because I mean, like this, all of that description, just multiply it over the course of 3 rounds, because that's really what this was. Gustafsson just moving Williams wherever he wanted, muscling him all over the place like a sack of potatoes, opened
Yeah.
him up nicely as well. Very leaky late second round into the third. Didn't go as far, or didn't go for as many clinch elbows as I expected, but he did throw a couple and they were heavy. So, I mean, like, I would think that he could go back to the bread and butter from the Contender Series a little bit more in some of his future fights, because he was so effective with those, and here in this one when he did decide to do it, especially too when you've got an opponent so worn out like Williams was towards the end of this fight. I mean, like, there were times where he was a sit and duck for some of those close range elbows if he wanted to throw them. But this was just one long round of a fight where Gustafsson was just doing anything and everything that he wanted to do. And Williams just, he tried. He certainly did try, but there just was not an answer for the relentlessness of this performance from Gustafsson. So, I mean, like you said, this is why it is important to actually be aware of the circumstances of the actual fights, the mechanics of the fights themselves, as opposed to just seeing things on paper. Because if you see a unanimous decision win, it's like that could be anything. But if you know that it's this, then you're coming into it with a lot more information than you would have if you just read it.
Yeah, I think what's also key to note is this is why you got to watch the sport, because on paper, Andreas Gustafsson has 2:30.26s. The only other person to have 2:30.26s is Thomas Peterson right now. Thomas the Train. So this should let you know the level of competition that you're watching. You can know who's the better person that gets a unanimous decision out of these two, even though one is a fucking smashing machine and the other one's a blob. So I don't know. You just got to pick your poison. And I'm telling you, this guy right here will not let you down. There was actually at the end of the first round, Justice in the Discord was saying, this guy's going to be so tired. Like, no way he can do this for 3 rounds. And I said, I kind of chuckled, like, you bet your fucking ass. Like, he's going to do this for 1 more round. And then you're going to say it again. No way he can do it for a 3rd round. And then you know what? Get this. He's going to pull a 3rd round out of his ass where he does it again. Just does what he wants.
Yeah.
I think what's key to note is, like, so in this sport, right? It's a sport. So you have mixed martial artists, right? But then also you have fighters. Andreas Gustafsson is a fighter. He doesn't lean more into the mixed martial artist category because he's not technical. He doesn't know the martial arts. He just knows how to smash people. He just knows how to smash people up with his hands and his fists and his elbows and his knees. And in some way, in a roundabout manner, that creates a great mixed martial artist as of right now, or at least for the time being in the performances that we are seeing with the opponents given. I just think it's impressive.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I can't wait to see him fight again. Be perfectly honest. I mean, after a performance like that, keep doing exactly that. It is fun as hell to watch for me. I did think it was very funny that Joe Rogan called the New Jersey fans casuals for booing the clinches in this fight. I was like, Joe Rogan, how many shit posting groups are you in?
We actually didn't get into it because I can't remember which fight it was. There was multiple fights on this where the crowd was just booing the stand up.
They were very restless, this crowd.
I mean, actually, I'll tell you a specific fight that it was happening later, but like this card right here, the people were striking with each other and people were booing. Like, what did they want to see? Did you want to see the clinching? I don't know.
It was rather strange, but either way, I loved this fight, and I thought that Andreas Gustafsson looked fantastic in it. I also wanted to ask one last question before we move on here. How much do you think Chaos Williams gets support based on the nickname Chaos? Do you think that plays into people's mind, like, oh, Chaos Williams, that sounds cool?
I think so because it is a nickname. I could be wrong.
Yeah, his first name is Kalen, by the way.
Okay, so yeah, so it is a nickname. So people, I think you would assume, same with like the Korean zombie. If you go by a nickname, well, you must be pretty fucking badass. Like, you don't get your name replaced unless you're Cher, like shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that there's something to the line of thinking because I think the name is cool. I think his nickname, the other, the Ox Fighter, also his nickname, and I like that too. But he's just not equaling up to any of that right now, and
Yeah,
that's
an ox
unfortunate.
would fuck him up, dude.
An ox did fuck him up. His name is Andreas Gustafsson.
Literally.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
anyway, all right. Well, that's enough of that one. Good job, Andreas Gustafsson. Hopefully, you're not a Nazi. Anyway. Moving on to Sergey Spivak versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. Did Spivak catch Waldo's eye with his toe in that first kick?
Oh, I don't know about this one, but I know a fight later there was a toe that caught an eye with a kick.
I think he
But
might have though. Anyway, all right. Well, what'd you think?
no, this fight here, God, I hate to say that. I don't remember what I said on Monday. I'm not gonna lie, because later in I was very torn on this one. This one was a very hard one for me to choose because Waldo, for one, a very, and I say basic, but it's not a bad term because he's very average at everything. He's basic enough as a fighter that he can give you a little of everything, and it can be enough that if you have an off night, he can win. In this particular performance, I do not think Spivak had an off day. I actually think he performed pretty damn good. The striking numbers are not lending to my confidence here when I go into this, but I thought Spivak won this fight. I really thought this was easy. I mean, not easy enough, but I thought the moments that were big, and Spivak was also trying to mix in the wrestling. Waldo was doing a great job defending, but Spivak was the grappler, and he was keeping it close on the feet, and then he was also mixing in the grappling. How did Waldo win this? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this was a very close fight. This was one that they showed the scorecards graphic afterwards, which is generally when they think that there was a robbery that occurred. I don't think that this necessarily was a robbery, potential petty theft, perhaps, but this was very, very close. So I mean, like I have it broken down, by the rounds, but even in the first round, I say close first round. Both these guys are like very plodding, lumbering heavyweights. They're neither of them are super light on their feet, even when they are fresh. I think Spivak edged it with the freshness in the first. Waldo had some nice takedown defense in the second. Sergey gassed a little bit early. Second round was very slow on his side, so Waldo sort of picked up the slack there. Good mixing of the striking for him in that second round. Nice body work. That was a big note for Waldo. Going to the body a lot, I think, paid off really well for him. So if it was 1-1 going into the third, Spivak landed some heavy shots in the third. In the moment, I thought that that Waldo winning felt correct. Now, granted, I'm doing my watch alongs with Fitz King, who is Dominican. So, there might have been a little bit of Dominican glazing going on in that regard. But I did think that, even on the rewatch, I thought that it did feel right, even if it was like very, very, very even.
Yeah, I think what's crazy is that this is again why I'm glad I didn't bet, because I got swayed towards the end of the week to go with Spivak, because I do like Spivak, but in reality, what the case is that he's very inconsistent. He on paper, the stats will show you that he's just an inconsistent performer. Waldo, on the other hand, very basic, very average, going to give you everything good but nothing great. He came in here, put on the performance that was just enough to get past somebody who's inconsistent on an off night, like I said. And Waldo is not the type of striker who's going to be able to put lengthy combinations in that are going to like overwhelm Spivak and finish him up against the cage, like like Cyril Gahn did, or Jailton eventually did, got him on the feet and overwhelmed him, put him down on the mat, whatever you want to say. Waldo is not that type of striker. So the knockout I did not feel was going to come. Thankfully, I was right about that. The fact that it was closer on the feet, again, makes me have so much hope for Spivak, because he does impress me. Like, this is not what he's really about. Like, he's about the grappling and he's about the wrestling. And he wants to show you guys, I'll trade with Waldo. Like, this is the guy you think will knock me out. Like, we'll go running around the block again. Anybody you think that'll knock me out, I'll stand with him. Whatever you want to say. So
Right.
I do shout out to him, but to his detriment, he's now losing again. And you wanted to talk about how these are two big, blumbering buffoons of fucking heavyweights, basically. I know you didn't say that, but
I don't think I said that, but okay.
I'm paraphrasing, of course. But these guys, you got to understand, Spivak is an undersized heavyweight. So he came in at 241, I believe is what it was, 245 or something. Waldo came in at like 265 to max. But Spivak was massive compared to Waldo. I just think it's something to note going forward that Waldo is a short and fat heavyweight compared to an undersized heavyweight. Like that should just tell you something. Like if he's up against fucking Tom Aspinall, which is something that may fucking happen at this point here soon. Who knows? Or even Cyril Gahn, like, somebody who's just one of these massive hulking figures. Like Waldo, he's going to have to figure out how to get on the inside and make it gritty, but striking from the range that he does, it's only going to work for so long. I know I keep saying it and he keeps winning, but like there's going to be somebody who's going to figure it out and be able to do something just a little better, because this one was close and I thought you may have lost it. So,
Well, and to your point about Waldo, like I think that you're saying that he's basic. I think that really with him, at least, this could be a little bit of conjecture, but what the proof is in the results. I think that he's a good game planner. Like I just think that the because what we have seen now from him time and time again consistently is that he fights the exact correct fight for the opponent that he is facing. He did it against a Rebellis. That worked out perfectly for him. I mean, like these kinds of fights that he ends up in where it's like, what does this person bring to the table and what do I need to do to not let it beat me? That I think is his strongest strength, his strongest attribute here. And it's been paying off for him. Now, I don't know if that's coming from him or his team, a combination of both of those, or if it's just a lucky coincidence that it's working out for him at the moment. But as of right now, I mean, it's like he doesn't need to be overly flashy or do any kind of like crazy one thing extremely well sort of deal. Like when you say he's basic, it's like it's almost a compliment in a way because it's like he is evenly distributed, I would say, in the skills department. So it's like I look at what is in front of me on the landscape. I pick out the things that I can be better at and not allow myself to fall behind in. And I just go forward from there. And that's really, I think, what has been working well for him so far. So will he be able to do that as he raises in the ranks? That's a great question because there are going to be a lot of guys who are gamers just like him and be like, okay, well, I can figure that out too. I mean, I can play that same game. But until we see that, I think he's doing the right things.
I agree, and I would like to preface by saying this is not the bombshell that I was talking about earlier. We will get into that a little bit, but this is one of two interesting notes. The second one we'll get into later. But Waldo did play professional baseball. I don't know if you guys know this. He did play for the Cincinnati Reds.
Yes.
So he is some sort of, in a way, a hometown hero. I do like to see this dude win. That's why I was torn on who was going to win this performance. And I'm very happy that Waldo continues on to be kind of a dark horse here. He's doing his thing, not getting flashy wins, just negating the opponents that are thrown in front of him. And if that reminds you of anybody like Marab, I mean, hey, that's all you got to do is negate the opponent enough, and then they eventually give you a title shot. So I think Waldo's on his way to something great. If they give an interim bronze, then he's probably in the running for it.
Well, there you go. What a great prize that would be. But look, I like him too. As I said, Vitz King, Dominican as well. So I got love for La República Dominicana. Que lo que to all of my Dominicans out there. And I'm glad to see him doing his thing and representing for the island. So very, very fine by me. I worry a little bit about what the future is going to look like for him. Like if he's not able to put together finishes and like really be a little bit more of like a dominant fighter. But as of right now, if the game planning is enough, then you're in heavyweight. You're already raising your stock tremendously. Just win over win.
Yeah, I agree. I like Waldo. I'm actually very happy for him. So
yeah, same here. All right. Before we go into this, just wanted to give a quick shout out to the chat because I see a couple of people in there. John Dong, Rick Allen, appreciate you guys. And Andy, good to see you, man. Haven't seen you on the watch alongs in a while, brother. Hope you're doing well.
Facts.
All right, moving into this
Mark,
one.
my buddy.
Oh,
shout out to you. Hey, I appreciate you for joining right when we wanted to give a shout out. Shout out to you for being here on Saturday and, of course, tonight.
There you go. Yeah, shout out to Mark as well. Welcome. Moving on to this next fight, Azamat Murzakanov versus Brenton Ribeiro. Left hand to God is a nickname of another fighter, but I think that it might be more applicable to Azamat Murzakanov, man. What the hell with this dude? This crazy shot that ended up being the exact right thing to do.
It's crazy to me that I'm like struggling to remember what exactly happened in this finish. Like, how did it go down? Like, it obviously happened very quick. It was done. It was a first round finish.
It wasn't super quick. It was a little bit later into the round, but no, it wasn't a very active first round until this sequence. They were both really kind of playing chess with each other a little bit, a lot of just kind of shuffle movement. But what ended up happening was that Azamat blocked a few kicks, sort of bided his time, was kind of seeing what Ribeiro was going to give to him. And then he just found a step in left right to the forehead that had Ribeiro doing the chicken dance. Like it really was just an up and over. Like when they played the replay, it was kind of like the angle wasn't great for it in the moment, but when they played the replay, it landed like right forward. Like it wasn't really like in a spot that you would think would have been a wobbler shot. It wasn't on the jawline. It wasn't on the temple. It was like kind of just almost like, just off to the side of the center of the forehead. But fuck if it didn't do exactly what it needed to do. And there was a whole lot of weird speculation on commentary that there was a verbal tap from
I
Ribeiro in
don't know
this
what
fight.
the fuck they're talking about with that one. That
No,
was stupid. He's getting his head beaten. Now I remember that part. Yeah, he's getting his head beaten. They're like, "Oh, he tapped. He tapped." They're like, "Yeah, they're saying he tapped." They're like, what are you fucking talking about? Like,
yeah, it was very weird. Like, and then they went back and did the ISO replay with the audio and everything, and there was nothing from that. So it was just an odd instance with commentary, sort of a little like seeping in a little bit too deep into the actual presentation of the sport here, a little, in my opinion. But either way, I mean, the proof was in the hands for Azamat Mirzakhanov because left
mhm.
hand connects, and then it was just a bunch of shots before it was eventually stopped by Mike Beltran, which is exactly as it should have been. Mirzakhanov keeps his 15-0 now. This dude is a legitimate problem.
Yeah, I mean, he's not active enough for my liking, but I'll definitely agree that he's still winning fights and by knockouts. So we'll continue going.
Well, that was the whole thing that Rogan had brought up in the post fight, saying, it's like, yeah, well, I mean, he's because he's calling for like he wants a 5 rounder, he wants to, be more, it's time for him to start stepping up, and he was like, yeah, well, okay, just be in here more. And it was like,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's a good point, right? I mean, if we have been finding out very regularly now that if you want to be active, you certainly can be. So,
and we will talk about it in the next fight of somebody who's extremely active. But I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
no, I know, and trust me, I know that we're all raring to go to get to the next fight. So I'm with that. I did want to at least acknowledge though, because I believe it was John Dong who I just shouted out just a minute ago, who was asking me like who are the fighters that I was like looking forward to seeing. This was a week or so ago, and Azamat Mirzakhanov was one of the fighters that I had named on there. So I'm very happy to see this continuing on for him. And at light heavyweight, where talent is sort of all over the map to an extent. It's nice to see another dude with some power in the hands getting it done. I would like to see a 5 rounder with him. I would like to see this progression that he's talking about. Be active, get your ass back in the cage, keep doing it. I'm happy here. That's all I'm trying to say.
I actually want to bring up a new perspective of this. Like, you got to sometimes think about if you were a casual and you didn't watch these fights, right? And someone came up to you and they're like, Brenton Ribeiro got knocked out last night. Your reaction would be like, yeah, probably. Yeah, I can see that. So, like, that should give you insight of going forward. Think about that. Think about, do you believe that like them getting knocked out is something that could actually happen? And if it seems very likely, don't fucking bet on them, because this guy Brenton Ribeiro, not that he's been knocked out plenty of times that I've seen or something like that, but I can tell you that he's not an entertaining performer. He's not very great in my opinion. So the fact he goes out here and gets smoked, yeah, I'm not fucking surprised. Like, I didn't even have to watch him for 16, 17 wins to know that he could probably get knocked out. So whatever.
Yeah, yeah, and whether or not it's just that it's Ribeiro that ended up taking the knockout, or how great Mirzakhanov actually is. These are the questions that will eventually get themselves answered. But it's nice to see that Mirzakhanov is continuing the progression to have that as the conversation going into the next fight. So again, be active, get your ass back in there. You just did it now. You didn't take a hardly any shots in this fight whatsoever. So get quick turnaround, brother. Loop it. Get right back in there. I mean, be the guy that you want to be, because time is never on your side in this sport. So, if you're doing it now and you're on a good hot streak, ride that out and keep going.
I would like to make a note that the undefeated fighters that are the last ones standing are unfortunately not the ones that we wanted or hoped for. Um, we're gonna need some competition step up for people like this. Somebody like Lerone Murphy is not a good example because he's been facing insanely good competition.
True.
Asmat Mirzakhanov, you're 15-0, brother. Now it's time for your MVP and Shara kind of matchup. We need to see you go up against somebody that's like an oddball, just thrown in the mix. Not somebody that you're hand picking as somebody like, oh, that's a good opponent. I know I can win that one, kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly. And that's hopefully what he's going to end up with in the next fight. So that's why I'm like, I want to just have him kind of like run it back, or you're not run it back, but you know what I mean? Just get back in there just one more time. Like go. Like,
No,
now, because now is the time for that.
I think it'll be key. He said he wants a main event. I'm sure it goes like this. Here's your main event. Here's the fight we have for you. If he's not in the main event next, I'm sure we can tell you what his answer was to the main event call up. And if it's a no, then you're going to see him on the fucking main card or the prelims of a fucking fight night. And who cares? You can keep calling for whatever you want. If you're not going to take the fights when we tell you we need somebody to be the main event, then then we'll continue dreaming. But we'll have to see how that goes for him.
Yeah, ask Armin Sarukian how that works out.
Yep, exactly. I agree. Macy Barber will be in the same boat, probably. I don't know. That's a
Yeah.
little different situation, but
Yeah, perhaps. But any which way, good win for him here. So that's really all that needs to be said about that one. So let's get into one of the bigger fights of the evening. And Chase, I know that this is an important fight for you for many reasons. This is Josh Van versus Bruno Silva. And Chase, I believe that I saw that you had quite a sizable audience on your watch along from a country called Myanmar. Is that true?
I have been the one that has been destined to lead Myanmar to the promised lands of social media. We are on the way right now. Josh Van is going to be a title fucking holder in 2025 at the end of it because he's so active. Pantoja is going to get a fight that he cannot run away from. Josh Van, I tell you, this performance right fucking here. If this performance right here made 20,000 people show up to the stream, I believe it. I believe it. I told you guys exactly what was going to happen. I don't know if I said it on this show exactly right here, but towards the end of the week, I came to the conclusion Josh Van will finish Bruno Silva. And people want to talk about this guy, Josh Van. He's pillow hands, he's a decision merchant, whatever you want to talk about. I talk about this guy like he's the greatest of all time. Every time he fights, I tell you he's going to break records, which if you noticed, he did. He's the only flyweight ever to knock somebody down 3 times in one fight. And you want to talk about pillow hands. Well, how about that knee to the cranium, buddy? Sat him down late in the fight. Anyway, Josh Van is that fucking dude who in the 3rd round with 59 seconds on the clock can pop you up, put you against the cage, and put you down, waiting for the ref to save you. I just can't tell you how impressive this guy is. He's going to keep getting better. He's already got a new fight booked, and we cannot fucking wait for Josh Van. I am in the Josh Van army. I'm probably the leader of it, not going to lie.
Huge fight that he's got booked too, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very scary fight. So we'll get
Yeah.
into that after. We'll talk about that after. Continue with the assessment.
Yes. No, I mean, I think that you're right on the money with all of that. I'm coining the term right here. I don't know if it works 100%, but I'm going with it anyway. This was vanillation, because that's certainly what it felt like. About as good as I could do. But anyway, this was a complete Van domination at the very least. The fact that Silva stayed in this thing as long as he did was amazing, considering how many times he was dropped. I mean, as you said, you referenced it there, three knockdowns in this fight before the ultimate finish, which was basically him conceding the fight, which, I mean, you know, I
basically a 4th knockdown. I mean,
certainly that. I definitely think that was the it really was like just the logical conclusion of all of the sheer power force that he was experiencing. He just couldn't handle it anymore. And it's like that, you know, I really don't want to like dogpile on Silva because he was taking a lot of damage in this fight and really was trying his best to fight through it. Tough guy, obviously, but I mean, it's just, you got Josh Van on the other side of those punches, man. It's just not going to go well for you. And that's exactly what he found out here. Van's takedown defense and ability to get back to his feet is amazing for a dude with no basis in wrestling prior to MMA. The one time he was taken down, right back up he goes. And I mean, like that right there, that point is, I think, why Van is such a huge problem for this division. This flyweights we're talking about here. This is the most competitive division in the sport right now, in my opinion. And Josh Van has unlocked the code that it takes to be effective in this very competitive division, because if you cannot take him down and keep him down, you're going to have to stand and strike with him. And if you're going to do that, this dude's boxing at 23 years old is next level.
Yeah, he's going to be, I mean, guys, he's already fighting, top competition at 23. He's going to, I mean, arguably with what news just broke, he's fighting higher competition than Raul Rosas, who's been in the league longer. Yes, he's still younger, but like he's been here a little longer. If he was going to get shit going, he probably would have done it by now. I know he's very, very good, but Josh Van is like superstar level, like shit going right now. Like he's somebody who, they did the math, in the last 360 days, he's fought 6 times. That is an average of 60 days per fight. Josh Van is that fucking dude. And the fact that I've been saying it since the first fight, I can't tell you guys how awesome it makes me feel. This is the guy that I told you. I'm telling you every time, this guy is that good. And he will continue to amaze you. Towards the end of the fight week, I was saying Bruno Silva, the way Manel Cap finished him, I know it was some eye pokes and some knee groins and some shady shit was going on, but he overwhelmed him and Bruno Silva folded against the cage. I said Josh Van will do that exact same thing to him, but he's gonna do it so clean. He's gonna put him up against the cage. He's gonna put him on his ass, and Josh Van. Dude, 3 fucking knockdowns. History books continue to be made. This dude is a volume striker with magical opportunities where he just rocks people. And I love it, guys. And like you said, the takedown defense. I knew somebody in the Discord was saying this is a good shout, and it was, Bruno Silva on over 2+ takedowns. And I said, first off, this is flyweights. We don't get takedowns, we get scrambles. You gotta be careful with that game. And second, you must not know who the fuck Josh Van is. 1 takedown, we'll give it to you. 5 more, you will see that we are just tree trunked and stuck in the ground. We are mud when it comes to takedown defense. And god damn it, this guy is just that fucking good. Holy shit.
Fast and accurate.
Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
this is it's amazing. So one thing that I saw from Silva was that he did start going to the ranged kicks in the 3rd round after he'd been pieced up for the first 2. That was a smart adjustment. He just needed to make that adjustment way sooner. And so I think that the fight got away from him at that point. So that's unfortunate on his side of the equation. The adjustments needed to come a lot quicker with a guy like Josh Van. And the one criticism, not even really a criticism, but just one thing that like could possibly make Josh Van like even that more like perfect is I do think that he could use a little work on his ground and pound, because the second time that he dropped Silva, he swarmed him after that. He could have had the nail in the coffin then and there if he'd been a little bit better about controlling while striking. So it's just like minor things, you know what I mean? Like it's like small stuff that, those little differences, the subtle differences that like separate the levels of eliteness, that I think that maybe Van has just a little bit more work that he could do to make himself the best version of himself that he can be. And again, at 23 years old, there's plenty of time to get to that point. But just something to note going forward, it's like if he's got somebody knocked down, there's probably ways that you can control a little bit more effectively so that you're finishing the fight a little bit earlier, because we want to see Josh Van get these finishes considering how much he does on the feet and how good he is. But that aside, like I said, fast and accurate. If he could up his power just a little bit somehow, he'd probably be 1st round finishing, but it is flyweight. So, that's going to be a little bit of a tall order. Either way, though, very fresh in that 3rd round, that flyweight cardio on display with Van so nicely. And I mean, the fact that he's able to carry that through all of those rounds, I mean, a 5-rounder is going to be not a problem for him, I don't think. Good thing to see there. It's flyweight, it shouldn't be, but everybody's different, whatever. And I mean, yeah, it was just a really solid all around, well-rounded performance. Silva took so many hard shots in that 3rd round that it was getting hard to watch. They finally ended up catching up with him. He's forced to cover it up. Smoked this dude down to the filter. Go Josh Van.
Dude, I fucking love this guy. Featured prelim. You guys cannot deny this guy a main event spot any longer. And that is to the credit that Josh Van is one of the most active fighters on the roster. And once again is proving it, because if you did not catch the news, I know I just kind of hinted at it just a minute ago, but Josh Van has signed Fight News already just 2 days after putting Bruno Silva on his lap and slapping his ass with a belt. He is signed to fight Brandon Royval and take Manel Cape's spot in the main event. Josh Van is a fucking Chad. What the fuck? Like,
that is such a monumentally huge step up for Van. It does worry me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I mean, we've just sat here and talked a whole lot. We don't need to go into all of the nuts and bolts of it. We'll talk about it when that fight's coming up, of course. But this is the exact thing. Like, we talk about how people navigate their careers and stuff, right? These guys that like, they all have their own version of like how you get to where you want to go. Some people are very flashy. Some people are good on the microphones, this and that. Josh Van has done the best version to me of like how you progress in the sport. And that is just be great. And I love to be great and be consistently great. And that's what you're saying about him fighting very regularly, 60 days between fights consistently. That's amazing. And, doing this all at a young age, you made that happen. You didn't need any things to fall into place for that to happen. You know what I mean? You didn't have to have that, the who the fuck is that guy moment on the microphone at a press conference. You got out there and did it in the sport itself. And I love that. But now you're facing a competition that is of the caliber that you have now gotten yourself to. So it's hard.
I think you bring up a great point. You guys have to understand how much that this dude solves with his hands, because you have never once seen him on a press conference table. They were after Josh Van won, elite. The dude that I've known for a year now and has watched 6 Josh Van fights, he said, "Holy shit, this guy speaks English?" I said, "Oh, wow, we really don't know what we're seeing here." And so, like, this is somebody that, has really just proven his worth with his entertaining performances, as somebody that just you don't know too much about because you'd never get the spotlight. Like, he's not somebody that's on, he's being thrust into the so he's in the apex and he's on the prelims, and then he starts winning, and then he gets some finishes, but then he goes immediately to pay-per-views where he's on the prelims. So he's never getting the opportunity to get a press conference for a fight night or main events coming for the pay-per-view. He'll definitely be on the mic now. So I think he'll definitely earn a lot more fans' respects because, you're talking about being great, being consistent. I think what Josh Van does ultimately great, and this is why people are fans of him, is like Josh Van is just himself, man. He's really he's 23 years old, whatever it is, and this kid loves to fight, and he shows you every fucking time. Like, there's nothing more to it. Nothing more to it. I just want to be a fighter. I'm 23 years old, and I show you every time I go out there. I'll show you every 60 days that I want to be a fighter.
Hell yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Love to see it. And the last note that I had is a good fighter and good guy. I just saw today that he used some of his winnings to purchase a house for his mother. So
no,
great
we're
dude.
gonna get into this because the next fight is coming up. It's like, Dano, where do you get off not understanding that there's probably kids in Myanmar starving that Josh Van would donate $50,000 to? Why did he not get a bonus for this performance? This is like absolutely ludicrous. 3 rounds of a brutal beatdown that ends in a finish, and we give it to the dude who's had 15 other fight fucking bonuses. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
it's absolutely scandalous. Anyway.
That is a little ridiculous, yeah. But no, I mean that's pretty much all. I think we've talked it well through here. Shout out to Josh Van because he certainly is next up and has a huge test in front of him now. So we'll get into that one when the time is correct for it. But for here right now, I mean this dude Josh Van really can do no wrong in the moment at least.
I wake up every morning striving to be Josh Van.
The man in the mirror.
Yes.
Indeed. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one. But before we do, just one more shout out to the chat. Natty D coming in saying, y'all are killing it. Keep up the good work, brother. Thank you very much for checking in and hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. And as always, Arrogant Savage, appreciate you as well, my man.
Yeah, you're not the van leader. I'm driving the van.
That's right. Everybody's getting in the van now. We know how that goes.
Exactly.
All right. Well, next up to start off the main card, Kevin Holland versus Vicente Luque. This was one of my, falters as far as prediction goes, but I do think that I called it correctly when I said that this was betting poison, and I stayed away from it. So, Chase, how many times have I said stay away from a fight? I did it. I took my own advice. I'm very happy that I did that.
Yeah, because you keep being you're unhappy with the reality that Kevin Holland is so good. That is what the problem is for you.
Inconsistent
No,
is the reality, and I'm very happy that I've recognized that.
why is it inconsistent to lose to good people?
Because you're losing, period.
But Hamzat Shumayev is an okay loss. Like,
Rainier de Ritter
is an okay loss.
Yeah, I mean, these are okay. Look, it's not that they're not okay losses. It's that I cannot gauge whether or not they're going to come or not. You see what I'm saying? I mean, like,
I just think Kevin Holland is a lot better than people give him credit for, and they think he cares a lot less than he does. I think it's also it comes down to it. It's like it's a thing of if someone tells you you don't care so much about something that you do actually care about, eventually you're gonna just like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I really don't care. I'm just gonna agree with you because you're gonna say I don't care anyways. Kevin Holland might take this as serious as anybody who has ever taken sports because he's that good. Like, you wouldn't look at Kevin Holland's skill set and be like, man, he really doesn't take this shit serious. Like, there's just no way that you could say that about his in-ring ability because he is that fucking talented. He's so good at a lot of different things. And his body, his genetics have actually equipped him to be a great in cage fighter. And I think that is just crucial to note that Kevin Holland is not just some bum. Like, he's not the plumber, guys. He's an actual fighter. You can classify him as a fucking legit professional fighter. He's that
Well,
good.
I mean, I'll definitely agree with you there. He is a legit professional fighter. However, I do think that his post-fight interview was very telling. I posted this on Instagram where he was asked, they were asking him about Michael Morales and, hey, do you want to, test and see if Michael Morales is really as strong as he says he is, blah, blah, this kind of stuff. And Kevin Holland said, no, hell no, I don't want to fight Michael Morales. That guy looks like a beast. I want old men. I want easy fights, this and this. So it's like, yeah, I mean, again, dude, I mean, this guy, he's too inconsistent. And if they're going to give him the Vicente Luques of the world, then yeah, then maybe there is something there and you can be a little bit more confident. But you never know what you're getting in any of these fights. I'm staying away. I am
I just
abstaining.
the double standards are nuts because Renato Moicano will come out on a post-fight speech and tell you, I want easy money, I want the oldest guys, I want the easiest checks. And then Kevin Holland comes out and says, Colby Covington, I'll fight you in the summer, and if you don't want the summer, I'll get you in the fall. And then now you guys are fucking mad. Like, he literally called out a dude who
Who's
just
mad?
fought for the belt. I'm not saying you are, but people. I just think Kevin Holland is getting unnecessary hate for navigating two divisions well. He's a fighter who can finish anybody, basically. I mean, that's what it should tell you is that yes, he's inconsistent, but there's times where the consistency could add up to a win against somebody that you don't think it could happen against. Like, if at the time, uh Hamzat, okay, so Hamzat finished him. Yeah, RDR finished him. But at the time, if Kevin Holland finished, Wonder Boy or something, it's not like you'd be like, whoa, Kevin Holland just fucking finished one. It's like, yeah, well, Kevin Holland, he can do a lot of different things. I just think there's too many negatives pointed at Kevin Holland, and he's been proving himself that you need to trust him.
No, I'm not agreeing with any of that, but okay. I mean, look, I'll I'll acknowledge that that your reasoning is sound. Okay, I don't think it's adding up for me to buy it, but I will still at least meet you halfway there.
Okay.
So to get into the actual nuts and bolts of this thing, and I think also why I'm so upset with this fight specifically is not really even on Kevin Holland's side. I think that Vicente Luque let me down in an extremely real way in this fight, but starting this thing off, Big Mouth Kevin Holland really pushing that nickname to the limit. He did not shut up the entirety of this fight. This dude was talking up a storm. I mean, we know Kevin Holland talks during fights, but this was some next level shit. I mean, like from the start of this thing, Mouth was just in motion the entire time. I'm amazed he doesn't gas himself out doing that, but neither here nor there. But Vicente goes for a single leg, holds it without getting the actual takedown, and instead takes 10 unanswered shots to the side of the head because of it. I'm like, bro, this is not good to start this thing off, right? Elbow from Holland causes a welt to behind Luque's ear instantly. It left an indentation for a second there.
Yeah.
That was pretty crazy. So first round, solid.
100% legal, by the way. Great. And
Yeah.
that was one of the better landed shots that you've seen right behind the ear.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that because, some people don't know about the Mohawk rule when it comes to the legality of strikes. Strikes behind the ear are legal, but Vicente Luque actually has a little faux hawk, so you can tell right where the legal territory is. So that's kind of nice of him to have
One
that.
of two faux hawks on the card. We'll get into it.
There you go. But so yeah, the strike was legal, perfectly placed, and a solid, easy round for Kevin Holland to win in that first one. 1 minute into round two, Kevin tosses Luque to the ground. Vicente, with zero awareness of his neck being wide open as he goes back to stand up, Kevin sneaks in the anaconda choke. 3 seconds later, he's over the cage, shaking Donald Trump's hand. What the fuck Vicente Luque. This is supposed to be the high-level jiu-jitsu specialist. This is the guy that can evade situations and navigate and all this kind of stuff. I had faith in the credentials of Vicente Luque, and I was supremely let down by how easy it was for Kevin Holland. That's really the thing. We can talk about Kevin Holland and the inconsistency, all the stuff we were just talking about. That's a whole separate conversation, and I will be perfectly accepting of him going up against different people and it being, whatever the outcome's going to be, depending on that person. This fight right here bothered the hell out of me because Vicente let me down.
I agree. Vicente did stand up and put his face right into a choke. It was pretty nuts. Kevin Holland is a black belt though, and is a person who will jump submissions over position, and he just actually happens to be someone who can finish them. He's done it a lot of different times. That's why I'm saying he's somebody that you just can't count out, because this is different than somebody who can, he might grab you and hold on to you for 15 minutes. No, this is somebody who genuinely will make you worried on the feet, and then when you shoot, he will pull a fucking triangle choke. Just like anything is possible with Kevin Holland, I think is key.
True. Yeah, fair. And this was a really solid win for him in that regard.
I think it's also key to note, as you talked about his talking. I think, and I could be wrong, this was the most calm and confident version of Kevin Holland. I think the over the top talking, I think that's exactly what is at home for Kevin Holland. I think if he's holding himself back a little bit in some fights, is because he's trying to take it a little serious and it slips out. He has his moments, but this one right here, this is exactly how he wants to fight. Somebody that a lot of people may not know, Kevin Garnett was somebody who would talk all the time during the NBA games, and he would practice talking all practice. You're wondering how Kevin Holland doesn't gas himself out. He probably just talks shit to his sparring partners all fucking day. All fucking day. That's probably all he does. So
could be. Well, anything is possible for Kevin Holland over here, apparently.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, solid win. He definitely did look very locked in coming into this fight too. He had been having some weird conversation going on surrounding him. Apparently he had like a little bit of a blow up at pre-fight press conference or something. He was getting a little bit attitude-y with some of the reporters and stuff. So
they were probably fucking with him just like they were with Joe Pyfer. I mean, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, well, not just like they were, but the Joe Pyfer situation was a little bit different with the comments being made about him and his new line of hair. But Kevin Holland, he had some issues with the Jackson podcast or something. Whatever. Anyway, that's all fluff. But he did look very dialed in for this fight. Got the job done. And then after the fight, in his post-fight Octagon interview, dropping some pretty heavy bars there, saying, if he wanted a fun fight, I wanted to give him a fun fight. If he wanted to dip and grip, I wanted to dip and grip. If he wanted to, go fly a kite, I was flying a kite. This dude had a
he
whole
did the
bunch of
longest yard. I got the fries to crush your eyes. I got the, whatever.
Exactly. So some remixer out there, like if you want a nice, easy, couple thousand views on YouTube, do like a remix of Kevin Holland's post-fight speech. There's probably some value there. But as you mentioned, called out Colby Covington. I'm perfectly happy with that. Let him take out the trash. It'd be great by me.
I agree. I think this is another $50K waiting for Kevin Holland, because Dana White clearly loves to put money in this dude's pocket. I don't know.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, that is definitely true. Now you make a great point that yes, was it a nice submission? Absolutely. It was a very easy submission versus what Josh Van did. There's no two ways about Josh being way more deserving. Did you also get a bonus?
Yes, he did.
Okay, thank God, because I was going to say then there would have been all kinds of problems if he didn't, but good.
Yes.
All right, well, fair enough then. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Kevin Holland gets the win. It's always going to be dependent on who he is fighting as to how much or little I can put stock in Kevin Holland. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we move on to the next fight, this is the point of the evening where we found out that Mark Kerr, the Smashing Machine, is getting inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. Kind of a convenient timing for this, considering that there is a Smashing Machine feature film coming out very, very soon. So, Chase, what are your thoughts about all that?
They probably, I don't know. I'm not going to say they probably. I'm curious. Did they say, oh, there's a movie being made about this guy, we should probably put him in the Hall of Fame? Or did they say, let's make a movie, let's get together with a big budget company, let's make a movie about this guy because we're going to induct him in the Hall of Fame, it'll be a nice roll. I would like to believe the first one, but I don't know I don't know. So
Yeah, either way, it just feels very like if that's not the case, if this was always the plan and it just happened to work out that way, it doesn't matter because it feels that way. You know what I mean?
mhm.
It's like it probably should have already happened, but now it's happening, and also there's a film coming out. It just felt all a little contrived to me.
The only thing that could have been worse is if Dwayne The Rock Johnson was sitting right next to him.
Oh, thank God they didn't do some shit like that because that would have been extremely tacky.
Yeah, that would have been I think that would have been the nail in the coffin. Yeah.
Yeah, not great. But to the point about the film, the early images and I guess the preview's been out. I specifically have not watched the preview. I'm wanting to go into this 100% without any foreknowledge of anything. But from what I understand, a lot of people are saying that the Rock looks the part. So Chase and I are going to both be watching this film, and we'll give our opinions about it sometime in the future. But is it right that Mark Kerr is in the Hall of Fame? Obviously, I mean, this is that's like a no-brainer kind of deal there. So somebody who was as integral to the sport in its earliest days, like I said, it should have already happened. But it being with the movie tie-in, like I said, a little contrived, but one way or another, it's the right thing to have happen. So
Yeah, I can kind of agree there.
yeah. So anyway, moving on to the actual next fight. I was putting it off for a little while here, as long as I could, really, because of how absolutely infuriating this fight was for me. But this is Patchy Mix versus Mario Bautista. Can I just start this one off, Chase? Do you mind?
Yeah, go for it. I would love to hear it.
So on this show in the past, I have said that I was done giving credence to fighters from outside the UFC that are coming in at higher levels. I've said that, there are so many times that I've said, look how many wins that they have. Like, all of those could not have been against cans. Come on, there's no way that this guy is coming in here without a solid skill set that's going to be able to go toe to toe with at least the decent of the UFC based on their experience outside of the organization. And I had already said that I was going to stop doing that. Patchy Mix was the last time that I made an exception for it, where I had said, you know what, I said it in the past, but this one is the one that I really feel confident about. Look what he has accomplished in the Bellator brand. Look at the accolades that this guy has. Look at the grappling acumen of this guy. For him to come in to the organization on UFC 316 and put on a performance like he put on here, I cannot imagine a worse debut in the UFC for a guy who is as credentialed as he is, or a guy who is just starting out in his career. This was pathetic. This was fucking pathetic. This was another handshake agreement fight here with Patchy not using the one skill that he is good at all. Not one single takedown attempt by Mix in round one, or really at all. They gave him one. He did have the one in the third round. Barely an attempt that Bautista was able to skate on through, no problem. But so even if you say one for Patchy Mix, who has like 10 submissions, this was absolutely atrocious. And I am saying right here, right now, that there is no buts anymore. If you are coming into the UFC from anywhere else, you better go through 3 guys before I'm even allowing you to be okay in my book. Because I am sick and tired of putting my faith in fighters who don't deserve it. And that is what Patchy Mix is.
Yeah, this was a major, major good hate watch. I can't tell you guys how cool it was to be right about this. When you watch a guy who comes out and they talk shit like Mario Batista, there's a specific line Mario Batista, he's like, he's gotta go through me to get to the top of the division or whatever. And Patchy Mix is like, I'm looking through you, buddy. Like, I'm already on to the top. We've already talked about Patchy Mix has been calling out Sugar Sean. Brother, do I have something to tell you about the top of this division? Because if this is what you're going to pull out, if this is what was winning in the other promotion 21 times or whatever the fuck, how many times you had it, obviously not 21, but there's just no fucking way that they're serious. I remember North in the Discord, he actually said, after this performance, and we'll get into the next one, he said, if Kayla loses, no way can the UFC take these former champions from other promotions like seriously anymore. Like, no way can you throw them into the main card. Like, you have to, they gotta rise just like every other guy from the Contender Series or the road to the UFC. Like, no way should Patchy Mix have not had to prove himself. And bro, Mario Batista is not that fucking
That's the
guy.
point. That's the fucking
Exactly.
point. That is the
Exactly.
exact fucking point. This was the exact right fight for him to come in at. This is the exact right level for him to come in at, to prove all of the accolades correct, to prove that he is the person that he was claiming to be. He comes out there looking stiff as a board, no head movement whatsoever, barely even any footwork at all. Guy was barely moving. He was a mannequin out there.
Yeah, it's really bad when Mario Batista puts a striking clinic on you. Like, it's that dude's, I mean, he's good. He's a very all-around good skill set, but like if he's popping you up, it's really funny because Mario Batista had one move that worked all fight. He just threw a 1-2. Just threw a 1-2, and Patchy Mix would just go and just get caught by both of them. It was absolutely hysterical how little head movement he had. Because like this is a dude, like, okay, so and you're talking about this is one of the worst debuts from another, we talked about Pitbull a little bit ago, and it's like at least he has the excuse that he's old. This guy Patchy Mix, he has no fucking excuse. And he actually has already given himself excuses. He's like, oh, I took this fight on short notice. It's a guy in the top of the division, like I'll be back. It's like, well, hold your horses. You're about to be at the apex probably. So you need to chill out before you start talking about this moving on stuff. Take some reevaluation. Don't get on social media. Don't come out and make a presser moment for yourself where you just look like more of an ass. Go out here and just sign another fight. If you truly believe Mario Batista didn't really have an effect on you, he was just a better man that night, okay, go sign the next fight. You had to come to the UFC after you got out of that shitty contract with Bellator or whatever the fuck it was. Now you're in the UFC. Show us how active you wanted to be. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I honestly, like, yeah, I mean, sure, if that's like the fix, but
he
like,
sucks. So I guess activity
mean,
is the worst for the fan base at this point.
well, I mean, it's just like, is he even deserving at this point based on this is really my question, because it's like, this was Mario Bautista. This was a hard spar for Mario Bautista. That's all that this was. He was dancing around him, popping him up, just doing whatever he wanted out there with no opposition whatsoever, maybe one little moment of it towards the end of the fight. But it's just, I mean, like, the funniest thing of this one, talk about the commentary a couple times on this review here, Joe Rogan saying that Bautista had the perfect game plan. The perfect game plan to dance around and catch a dude who's not doing anything. Yeah, that's a pretty good game plan, I would say. If you're going up against a sparring dummy, then why not? But yeah, I mean, this is round 2 was when I was getting really furious. It's like round 1, it's like, okay, maybe you make adjustments, right? But round 2 is when I lost my shit mentally, because Mix's corner, his own fucking fiance. This dude's fiance is Tatiana Suarez, no slouch in the grappling department there. So both of these credentialed grapplers, his fiance is telling him, you need to level change. And he just fucking didn't. He wouldn't do it. Mix's corner told him, fuck the crowd going into the 3rd round. It seems like Mix was the only person who didn't realize how and why this wasn't working out for him.
Yeah, I specifically remember this as one of the moments where the crowd was booing the stand-up. And you could take it a few different ways. Like, boo, Patchy Mix, you fucking suck for standing right now. Boo, why the fuck are we having to watch Mario Batista strike with you? And like, there's just so many things that you can go over. But Patchy Mix, like, I actually cannot believe he looked this bad. It's actually truly a spectacle to see. Like, if you didn't watch this fight because you're like Mario Batista, whatever, big whoop, watch this fight because you'll truly see that Mario Batista, one, is not that great. You will also see that he is vulnerable because towards the end of the fight, he gassed out. And then you will get this, you get a former Mario Batista where he's running around the cage. And then you have some people who would read this as like, oh, Patchy Mix, all he has to do is track him down. He's got him right where he wants him, put that one last combination on him. It's never going to happen. You're going to watch the time run out and Patchy Mix looks like ass the entire time. 15 minutes of nothing is what you watch for Patchy Mix. 122 strikes is pretty fucking gracious. I'm talking gracious. If Spivak only had fucking 50, okay, sure. Sure, Patchy Mix. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he attempted the one takedown in the 3rd round. Mario's wise to it, just hammering Mix throughout the entirety of this thing. The only takedown attempt in the entire fight for Mix was that one in the 3rd round. Did absolutely nothing. Mix lands a few shots within the last 40 seconds, but who cares at that point? This was the easiest fight of Mario Bautista's career. No lie. Patchy Mix, there's nothing for you, bro. Not based on that. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you have such now. It's like that's the other part of this too. That's so frustrating as well. Is like what you were just talking about fighting at the apex and having to prove himself, work his way up. Is like you had the opportunity to skate your way into the top 10. You were given silver plattered this opportunity that people work their entire careers
He'd be
to
fighting
achieve.
Marab.
He'd be certainly somebody in that of that caliber, potentially, you know what I mean? Like somebody in the conversation, he'd be top 10. You were waltz your way into top 10, and you squandered that to now have to go back down to the bottom of the heap and work your way up like everybody else does. And that is just mind blowing to me.
It's actually even crazier to think that he's not just having to face a loss. This is a loss where you had expectations and you completely did not meet them. So what people understand of you is not that you just lost, but that you lost in incredibly bad fashion. The numbers don't add up. The eye test is not something, there's speculation to what is up with Patchy Mix here. And I think going forward, there's always going to be questions because this dude is just not that good, in my opinion. And I didn't think if he was, guys, he would have already been in the UFC a long time ago. Like I think that is what's truly key here.
The only counterpoint that I'll offer to that is that he wanted to go out and prove a point that he could strike. And this is not the time nor the place for that to be the case, my man. Or if you're
Well, it's
going
just not the reality. He can't outstrike.
well, I mean right, that's the other part of it. But I mean, either way, it's like if you want to make that a point, you do that within the context of what you're also good at. You do it while you're mixing in your grappling. You do it while you're on the ground after you've already secured takedowns. Like there's plenty of ways to show that you have hands. This was not it. And if you're going to go in there with the what has worked for you for 20 victories and say fuck all that, I've got a new plan in your debut at the top of the heap in the premier organization, only to lose to a mid-tier guy, you deserve everything that we're saying right now, in my opinion. You brought this loss on yourself. You brought this criticism on yourself.
I agree. I 100% agree. Mario Batista is what Patchy Mix called a journeyman. And for somebody who's 16-2, that's a little disrespectful, I would say. This is the same amount of losses that you have now, buddy. This was one loss away from what you could be at the time. So the fact that you came into the UFC with this shithead mentality, I mean, karma's a bitch. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. I want to move on from it because I'm just going to keep getting even more angry the more that I talk about it because this one really, really bothered me. So I'm glad that I got it all out. Thank you very much for bearing with me with that. And anything else that you want to say before we move on?
I mean, to be fair, there's no other like big, PFL, Bellator. Well, Bellator's gone, but PFL kind of bigger name. Dacheva, yeah.
Kota Dacheva, yeah. That's about it.
Cage Warriors also. It's not really somebody like Patchy Mix was maybe like the last of like, okay, who's gonna beat? Where's he gonna go? What's gonna happen with him? Like Pitbull was one of them. Patricio and Patricky. But Patchy was like the last of the where is he gonna end up kind of deal.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think this also goes back to the point that I had made a couple episodes ago where I had said that PFL is investing and wanting to have homegrown talent now. Like I think that they are trying to build up their own fighters so that they have like really good stars that are PFL born and bred, so to speak, quote unquote. So in the future, we might see some new ones coming out of that experiment if they are able to keep their organization going and keep those fighters happy and allow them to flourish within their structure. So we might see it eventually, but aside from Dakota Ditcheva, like we're in this kind of lull period right now because of the Bellator transition into PFL and all that kind of stuff, that I think that Patchy Mix really is like the last of the fighters in this sort of situation. So maybe Ryzen might have a couple more that might make sense. But as of right now, that probably will be the end of the experiment when it comes to bringing in bigger, quote unquote, credentialed fighters from other organizations for a little while at least. And, good fucking riddance to it for now.
Yeah, I agree. The fact that one judge gave it 29-28 is pretty nuts. Patchy Mix probably deserved 30-26 for this performance.
I mean, it's hard to say that because of how down the line average Bautista is, but I think that speaks in and of itself of why this is so frustrating, you know?
The average UFC quote unquote journeyman can 30-27 smoke the fucking other promotion's champ, you know, like.
And that is why never again are you going to hear it from me. Even if, you know, like I said, they're probably not going to see it for a little while, but if we do,
Aaron Pico, we'll see it next.
And no, yeah, all the money on who's he fighting? He had an opponent already or no? I thought they had announced it. It's not.
No, not
Yeah,
anymore. I don't think so.
Yeah, they might have had somebody and it felt whatever. Anyway, but keep this conversation in mind. If you ever hear me putting any kind of faith in someone coming in from outside, just this episode, direct me back to it.
100%.
All right, let's move on here. Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. This was a meh fight across the board, in my opinion. I was definitely not accurate with my prediction in this fight. I take that 100% upon myself. I thought that Kelvin Gastelum was going to be able to wear Pyfer out later in this fight. That was not the case. So, you know, eggs on my face for that one. But all in all, I was not super impressed with Joe Pyfer in this fight.
Oh, well, you shouldn't be. There's no way you can be. I even said at the beginning of the fight, if Joe Pyfer does not finish this, we at least have to be skeptical of a few things. I mean, yes, he is still a prospect. Yes, he is still winning. But is he the man that we think he is? Probably not. After Joe Pyfer knocked him down 2 times in the first round,
2 times,
those would probably finish anybody else in the division. So I won't take too much into that consideration. But the following 2 rounds after that are the complete tell of the situation. Joe Pyfer, no urgency to finish fights if it doesn't mean he throws one punch and it knocks them out. He does not, you know, care to set up combinations. What they did this entire fight, which was pissing me off so much, is, and you hear this all the time, you hear hand fighting. These dudes were doing the most hand fighting that I've ever seen in my life. Because they weren't throwing jabs, they weren't throwing straights, they weren't putting any combinations. They were just grabbing each other's hands. They were just trying to grab each other. They were slapping each other too. You know, get your hand off. You know, they were doing that whole thing. And then later on down the fight was so uninteresting, and there was so little happening that Kelvin Gastelum had to gas it up by doing the
hand jive,
like, and you're watching it and you're like, he's not doing anything. He's 30 feet away.
Yep, he was waxing on, waxing off, Miyagi style.
It was absolutely the most ridiculous thing I've seen. But honestly, the most in character thing for Kelvin Gastelum. Did I expect anybody else to go drunken master? No, but Kelvin Gastelum did, and it didn't work. But the fact that some judges gave him a round, I mean, maybe it was like, I don't know. Like he was doing his thing. He was leading the fucking planes down the runway is what he was doing.
I mean, at least he was doing that, because one of the big notes of this fight on Kelvin's side is that, I mean, yes, he is tough. He did get back up after getting knocked down twice. So it's like, yeah, he didn't allow himself to get knocked out, but his inactivity in this fight was very noticeable, and ultimately his downfall, in my opinion.
He's fat.
That too. But he did make weight though. So I mean, you know, whatever, fat or otherwise. But yeah, I mean, you know, Pyfer, to his credit, has great composure. I will definitely give him that, because Gastelum was feinting a lot and Pyfer never really bit on the feints. So good for him on that.
Would you bite on what he was doing, brother? The fucking...
No, not that specifically, but you know, throughout most of this fight.
Sorry, continue.
Fair assessment, though. I'll give you that. The strike numbers were very low on both sides of this fight, though. Pyfer needs to string together combos dearly and earlier, for sure. You know, you mentioned his lack of combos. It's definitely apparent, especially in a fight like this one. I mean,
threw one leg kick, by the way, too.
Yeah. The kicks need. I mean, like, talk about mixing the martial arts. There's very little of that in this fight. Weird moment when Pyfer shoots on Kelvin. Kelvin had him in the guillotine, and then he just let it go, and Pyfer swept his legs out from under him. I thought that was just strange. I was like, what the hell happened there? Like, it was almost like they, you know, almost looked choreographed to an extent. It was like, okay, I'm got you in the headlock. I'm gonna let it go. Now you take the. It was like, this weird. This whole fight just bothered me.
I think it was a WWE spot, wasn't it?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like the whole thing was just like, yeah. I think I was probably still a little upset from the last fight, so this fight was just going to already be a little bit scrutinized by me. But yeah, this fight was just very, very meh down the line, as I said. And Joe Pyfer really didn't do himself any favors in the post fight when he really hit the crowd with, "Yeah, this fight might not have been that great. This fight might have sucked, but hey, Donald Trump is here though." Huh? Come on, guys. Huh?
I did not catch that one. That was pretty funny.
He really did that.
My favorite part of it was he goes, "This wasn't a good performance, guys, but body bags is back." It's
Oh
like you
yeah.
didn't fucking get no body bags. Like
What I
what
had
the
said on the
fuck?
watch log. I said body bags is back. None needed tonight though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The coroner was not called tonight, guys. He
Yeah.
definitely stayed home. Thanks, Joe Pyfer.
Yeah. So I mean, look, we're being a little bit hypercritical, perhaps, but at the same time, Pfeiffer is one of few. Kelvin might have been knocked down before, but not knocked out. But the fact that he has enough power in his hands to knock down Kelvin Gastelum, who has never been knocked out, that is something. It's not nothing.
Are you surprised that the guy who scored higher than Francis Ngannou on the punching machine knocks people down? I mean, answer that.
I have my reservations about that punching machine altogether, but
Well, I
anyway.
agree. How does it know that Francis punches as hard as a Jeep? Did that thing get hit with a Jeep? I don't think so. I'm just saying. I don't know. So,
Yeah, it's funny that I don't want to go into too far of a diversion
yeah,
on
we
this,
don't
but
want to have a science talk.
well, I actually had been at one point in the past, and I still might go back to this at some point, but I've been doing research on this subject because of how interesting that machine is to me, and trying to look into like the details of it. And there's some mixed information about it, is all I'll say. I didn't get deep enough into the research to actually put the video together, but perhaps in the future, a little teaser for you down the line. But anyway, back to the fight at hand here. Yeah, yeah, but my point of saying that though is that like if he hits that hard, then he should be knocking down Kelvin Gastelum. He should be knocking out Kelvin Gastelum. The power is there, the technicality almost there to an extent, but it's like again pieces of the puzzle, but not the whole thing.
Yeah, he's just IQ is just not there for Joe Pyfer. His idea of a great performance is him standing at range with the ancient Kelvin Gastelum for 15 minutes. After you knocked him down in the first 2 to 4 exchanges, you did nothing for the next 15 minutes. I just think it's pretty impressive how bad you can flop. Like you think about how hand-fisted it was. You have 2 knockdowns of Kelvin Gastelum in the first round, and then you still end up being shit. Like at the end of the day, it's like people still don't give a fuck because you didn't do anything with it. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so
and you hate
Piper.
Mexico.
You're right, and that too. Yeah, exactly. You're doing yourself no favors with how you're navigating your press engagements and things
Mhm.
like that. Also, so yeah, Piper not doing himself really any favors in general. I would say at the moment, this fight certainly did not raise his stock. A win's a win. Keeps the win column pumped up, so that's good. I guess we'll see what he can do in his next fight. The competition's only going to get harder from here. So it's like Kelvin Gastelum. Part of the conversation that you and I had about this fight specifically was that like when is it time to say that Gastelum is just not ever going to be that guy again, if he ever even was sort of that guy. Certainly now. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
no more faith in Kelvin Gastelum
a
after this.
guy like me would have said it was 2 fights ago, probably.
And you're
But
probably
like
right. Probably right.
somebody who's trying to be a fan of Kelvin Gastelum, they're trying to let him hold on to that last, like they're on the thread, the rope's just a little bit of thread left between the. Anyway, I think Kelvin Gastelum is just gone.
Yeah, and that's the funniest thing to me too, because I was never that either. Like I've never been a fan of Kelvin Gastelum. I've always hated the weight misses. I've always, kind of thought that he was a little bit above his station in the sport, based on some of his prior achievements that he hadn't been living up to at this point. I just thought that Piper might have been biting off more than he could chew with a guy like Gastelum, who does hit hard often, but it just doesn't seem that that's the case in this. So I'm just at this point, yeah, both these guys kind of wash out, in my opinion, at this point.
You also got to remember, like casual viewers, they don't watch every event. So when they show up and they see a fight like this, and you go, oh, the short, fat guy is definitely going to lose. And then he loses. It makes you wonder, it's like, okay, at a certain point, you could be that unorthodox drunken master. But when it stops working for you, you're just another fish in the barrel. Like, you're nothing special. You're still just a loser at the end of the day. You're still losing on the record. You could do it as uniquely as you want, but you're still just on the losing end. Yuri is not a loser because he fucking wins fights, and he's unique, and it works because he wins fights. Like, Kelvin Gastelum can be all the unique he wants, but if he's not going to string them together like he once did, then he's just somebody that's losing fights to Joe Pyfer in boring fashion. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, 100% with you on that one. So, that's really all that there is to say about this one, I think. So
yeah, I agree.
let's keep it moving here. Let's get into some of the more feel good moments of this card, because I think that there was a little bit of negativity here between these last two fights, but from this point on, I think everything is feeling pretty good in the big picture. Now, granted, both myself and Chase were incorrect in our predictions on this fight, but the outcome still made me feel really happy. So this is Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. This, of course, for the women's bantamweight title.
I will go ahead and start this discussion by dropping the bombshell, because I think it is going to give great context to what we're going to talk about in this fight.
Okay.
So you understand that every time they walk into the cage before the fight starts, Bruce Buffer is introducing them, and they have a little banner that shows their weight and where they're from, and all these other things. Kayla Harrison, her thing says that she is from Middletown, Ohio. I don't know if anybody knows where Middletown, Ohio is. It is very close to where I stay. It is Cincinnati. It is the metropolitan area of Cincinnati. So here you have the first era of the modern champion from Cincinnati. And I really want to go ahead and give a shout out to Kayla Harrison for continuing to represent the area, not just Cincinnati like Chris Curtis. That's a big area. That's a lot of land. She's specifically representing a specific part of Cincinnati. And I want to give you also some context. Like, Kayla Harrison, you look at her, and even I'm somebody to say, before I knew this information, I would even tell you, looks like a preppy rich girl, right? When I tell people that she was, I went to work and I'm like, hey, did you guys know a champion from Middletown, Ohio? Just wanted that. They all went, she must be a real tough girl. Like, that's a real tough area. Like, and so in my mind, I really judge the whole book by the cover. This is somebody who I didn't get to see their debut of, so I haven't been understanding that they're the first from this area, like a Josh Van or something like that. This is somebody who jumped into the title picture, and I'm late to the conversation of understanding just how close to home this character can be to me. And I really think that I was disrespecting Kayla Harrison, and I'm not going to say she's the greatest, but I do think that I will start to give her a little more respect, because she is representing something that, that I really fuck with. So shout out to Kayla Harrison.
Absolutely. No, most definitely. I was going to wait till a little bit later on, but just Kayla as a person, she's a very impressive human being to me as well. Like I said, I there's nothing to do with the fight. We'll talk about the fight in a second, but Kayla has gone through a lot in her life. She had some, I don't want to go into too many details here, but some inappropriate things happened with a coach of hers when she was very young. She is an advocate for abuse prevention because of that, and also she is raising her sister's children as her own. Her sister apparently has some addiction issues that she's been dealing with for a lot of her life, has gone in and out of the legal system for a lot of her life as well. Kayla stepped up to the plate for these children and is, a parental figure to them now. And she's just a really good person. She's a quality human being on top of being an amazing fighter. So, you saying that she's from a rough area does not surprise me based on the information that I do know of her, and her being able to overcome that, I think speaks volumes to the character of Kayla Harrison on top of everything. So, and one other point to that too, her and Juliana Pena jawing at each other a whole lot to sell this fight. Effectively so, I would say. I mean, people were interested. Anytime Juliana Pena is running her mouth, it's going to get a little bit of eyes on it because she's such a loud talker. But after everything was all said and done, very nice sportsmanship between these two ladies, both acknowledging that it was, fight selling kind of stuff. And again, I think that speaks to the character of both of them to an extent, but also to Kayla Harrison, recognizing, yeah, she talks a whole lot, but that's the game that we're in. That's the business that we're in. No disrespect really intended or meant. And they go on as peers.
Yeah, business associates, whatever
Right,
you want to
right.
say. Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually agree. I mean, I thought this was, I mean, it was as good as it was actually. I picture perfect is maybe not the way to say it, but like for what she envisioned as her career once she got to the UFC. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. You come in here and you finish the champ via vicious, submission, and then you walk away and you get to excuse me, and then you get to have your moment on the mic about your kids, and I think that is just, it was actually a really good moment. Again, another, I agree with you, it was a good heartfelt moment, little humanizing out of her. So I think that was good for people who don't really know too much about her, just know her as the Olympic judo girl. This is a good, there's a Twitter page that maybe it's not a Twitter page, but there's like an interviewer who specifically does like humanizing athletes, and they ask them like their color, favorite foods, and video games and stuff like that. Kayla Harrison, I think she would benefit for something like that. I would like to learn just a little bit more about her.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, she was just on the Overdogs podcast with Mike Perry talking about a lot of these issues and stuff, and came off very, very well. So,
Mhm.
and also, I mean, like, again, we'll get into the actual fight here in a second, but you mentioned her career trajectory. I would say that Kayla Harrison has navigated her professional career about as well as any human being possibly could. She
Mhm.
starts off in the PFL, wins the tournament there twice, comes away with $2 million from those 2 wins. That was back when it was still $1 million tournament. So however much she takes home from that one, say 1.4, something like that, right? So she's a millionaire just off of her career in the PFL, not ever having to face any of the real elite killers in this sport. Decides that she wants to be that great. She makes the choice, because she could have retired if she wanted to in the PFL, or continued to stay in the PFL, racking up check after check after check, just being a fighter over there, fighting for the payday. She
Mhm.
decides that she wants to test herself against the best of this sport, comes into the UFC, does not get gifted a title shot, has to work her way up to it, does all of that, gets to the belt, gets the belt. And now, again, we'll talk about it in a second here, but then Amanda Nunes deciding that she wants to come back. You've got a super fight on your hands. I mean, I don't think that things could have possibly worked out better for Kayla. And if she can beat Amanda, I mean, that's it. That's the pinnacle. That's the top of the mountain.
I would not go that far. We will talk about that
I,
fight when we get up to
yeah,
that
right.
fight. But yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So, yes, Amanda Nunes did come back and get into the cage and have a little face off. I still am very curious of what the whole situation is, of why she decided to retire, and then her whole, oh, I'm gonna come back, just not for Juliana Pena. Like, I really don't know why there was a whole I don't want to fight Pena again type of thing, because she clearly can smoke her any day she wants. Like,
Yeah, I think she retired because she wanted to raise her children for a little while. Like they had just had the new baby at the time.
mhm.
So I
Yeah,
think
but
that was it.
yeah, okay, fair.
No, I
Well,
mean, I'm not, you can debate the merits of that. I'm just
yeah.
saying that was her reasoning, at least.
So hopefully we get to see her back sooner than later. Kayla Harrison. I'm not gonna say she's gonna be a fun champ, because we probably won't hear too much from her. Like, she'll probably just be, basking in the glory of all of her hard work. Like, this is like her life's goal right now. So up until her first defense, we probably won't see too much from her until we get like a date, and then we're gonna be like, oh, okay, well, work is starting now. And yeah, and I think Kayla Harrison is. Shout out to her. I mean, she really did her thing. Getting it, we can actually get into the
I
performance.
was
Like,
going to say, yeah, we've talked about
yeah,
everything but the fight.
yeah.
Let's talk about the actual
So,
fight itself a little bit here.
I mean, there's really not much to say, to be honest. Like, I mean, there was 2 rounds of action, but there wasn't much going on. It was Kayla leading the striking, which was surprising. Juliana Pena was very hesitant on the back foot, especially after we watched 2 hours of promos for her saying, I don't back up. I don't know how to back up. You know, she got backed up immediately. Kayla Harrison put her on the back foot, and she didn't have to wrestle too much, like in terms of shooting for a bunch of takedowns. She did what she did in the wrestling. She was very capable of making it happen, and obviously got Juliana Pena down. And towards the end of the second round, there was only a few seconds left by the time she got to the Kimura, but she was gonna rip her fucking arm off. That girl, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, that girl is strong as shit. Like, I'm actually wondering if she has always just been this genetically gifted. Like, does she have high school records at the fucking Middletown school? Is what I'm curious. Like, I'll
Oh
go
yeah,
find her.
she's an Olympic medalist.
But
You
like,
know.
I'm talking high school level.
Oh
Like,
well, okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, she probably had to be pretty active to get to the
I
Olympics.
mean,
Dude.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, going back a step or two here, I mean, what we saw in this fight was dominance from Kayla.
Yeah,
I mean, aside from some paw fighting, Kayla found the takedown really early and was able to just do exactly what she wanted to do in this fight, which was the exact opposite of what Juliana Pena wanted to do, or
and
was
said she was gonna let happen.
that. Yeah, that also. Yeah, Juliana Pena, did not live up to the big talk in the slightest here. Juliana also made the very poor choice to go for up kicks while Kayla was on her knee, so she was a downed opponent at the time, and Victor Ribeiro, the referee, Vitor Ribeiro, excuse me, the referee decided to take the point without a warning, but also took the position, which was a little strange there. But I wanted to get your opinions on that point deduction because it is rare that we see a point deduction off rip, no warning whatsoever.
I think I think at the time I said, "Oh yeah, they're bullshit now." The one time they want to do their fucking job, like, and I even thought at the time, like, those were fine up kicks. I don't care if she was kind of half up, half. She had one up, one down. That was kind of a hard position.
Knees a
I,
knee.
but a knee's a knee. But in terms of what we see, okay, get 1, 2 up kicks off, and it's like, hold on, girl, down, Nelly. And then we go back to it.
Right. Yeah.
So in this case, the fact that she got an instant point taken after I take a couple days off of it, my thought process is, oh, they were gonna give Kayla the belt no matter what. They take a fucking point anytime Juliana was gonna do anything. Anything.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but I do agree that it might have been better to give the warning in that instance. She was not intentionally trying to commit an illegal foul. Granted, it doesn't matter if your intention is there or not, but we've seen so many times, like, we know the pattern
Mhm.
watching this sport. One time is a warning, two times point, well, two times often the warning too. I think that's where my discrepancy lies. It's like one time should be the warning, two should be the point deduction. That should be the way that it goes. But in this circumstance here, there was no warning, so it's like, he probably could have given a warning there. Point deduction was a little bit strong. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily think that there was any preconceived notions going on behind the scenes as far as who wins, but that's another situation, I suppose. But either way, point deduction does happen there. Harrison able to back Pena down, as you were saying. She got her up against the cage a whole bunch in this fight, exactly what she wanted to do. So she did it. And takedown in the second round really showed the desperation of Juliana with Kayla on top of her. She's trying to tie the arms up, trying to advance to the exit positions that just weren't open. Kayla very composed in all of those circumstances, allowing Juliana to work herself deeper into trouble. I thought that looked really, really good. Obviously, the wrestling base and all of what you know about Kayla Harrison was on display in those situations. So very nice to see. And, very amazing awareness to transition from the head and arm into the Kimura in that
Mhm.
late second round, because Kayla started that sequence started with her getting her down, and she had her in the head and arm position, didn't think that she was going to get it, repositioned herself to get the Kimura, got the arm. You said it wasn't picture perfect. I would say that it really kind of was.
No, it definitely was picture perfect. I like that one. Kimura's always good. It's always dangerous to see. I always have to kind of like give a little squint and look away, like, oh, they really gonna let it go? Like, because I mean, when it comes to this sport, you really don't know who's gonna be that type of person until it happens. Like when Frank Mir fought Big Nog or whatever and snapped his arm, I'm like, yo, why would you just let him do it? Like, what do you do? Why wouldn't you say no? Like, so it's just crazy to think that at some point you can just see somebody's arm get viciously ripped off their fucking socket. So,
Yeah, well, thankfully Juliana did tap, so that did not have to be seen in this fight,
mhm.
thankfully. But yeah, again, fantastic performance for the new champ. Hail to the queen. Amanda Nunes gets into the cage. Your next fight is pretty well telegraphed. So, I mean, I think that the organization is probably going to make quite a big deal out of this one, considering the domination of Amanda Nunes. And, so you were saying, oh, we're not going to hear a lot from her. I would suspect that we probably are to an extent, only because they're going to be trying to sell this fight from now onward.
Yeah, Dana's eyes lit up with the money sign as soon as Amanda Nunes walked in that building tonight.
I
So,
mean,
or on Saturday night. So,
yeah, there's only a few women that can truly sell, and Amanda is among them. So now Kayla being who she is and her physique and all of those elements of it, I think that this one is actually a sellable women's title fight, way more so than even someone like Valentina Shevchenko, who is very dominant herself, but probably not as big a draw to the casual observer. So, yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there. Of course, we'll talk about it when the time is right. But, for right here, right now, shout out to Kayla Harrison for being that chick.
yeah, I agree. This one was great. Shout out to Cincinnati legend. This is one of my favorite fighters as of right now.
There you go. There you go. Another Cincinnati great to go right up there with Stipe, right?
Yep, absolutely. No, that's Cleveland. But either
Cleveland,
way,
Ohio legend. Sorry.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to the main event of the evening, Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley. Why did Sean O'Malley walk out to proud to be an American? I don't know the answer to that, but Merab walks out and a fan falls out of the rafters. That was kind of wild.
Oh, it wasn't just a fan; it was the whole little row thing.
Yeah, the whole
Well,
guardrail collapsed.
yeah,
Apparently,
what's actually funny is they cut to the camera of the camera guy in front of Marab, and then you see the cameras go fall to the ground, and you're like, "Whoa, what the fuck happened?" And then
pretty scary in the moment.
and then you
actually,
see the Marabs getting hit by the people. And what's funny is in the mind of the business, it's like get him to the cage. Just keep it going. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out later. Do lawsuits later. Get him to the cage. If he's hurt, we're fucked.
That's
go.
exactly what I was going to say. I mean, could you imagine what a debacle that would have been in the moment, in the walkout, for the guardrail to fall on your champion and hurt him? I mean, that could have been so much worse. So thank God that was not the case, but kind of a crazy way to start this thing off. Just even seeing that was very, very strange.
I agree. And what else can you say about this? I really don't know if I have a lot to say. I mean, I would just like to point out a few things. This is the no gooning status Sean O'Malley wearing the pink shorts with no hair dye, walking out the troll music. So I feel like he wasn't really on board with either one of what he wanted to be. I feel like he was 50-50 between if he actually he wanted to say oh, I've been locked in. I wanted to be a family man. But in his mind also, it's well, I gotta wear the pink shorts. I gotta have the funny music that people
one foot in, one foot
out.
Yeah,
he can't commit to not being the character because Sugar is already a character. If he came out without the pink shorts and no hair dye, people would just be like, "Who's the fucking white trash with cornrows? What is Kevin Federline doing in UFC?" And I just think it speaks to everything, and it speaks to volumes that when you watch the performance, there is again no clear, concise idea of what he was going to do. He did the same thing that he did in the first fight. He stayed at distance and tried to snipe the body. Nothing was working originally, and then Merab eventually closed the distance and overwhelmed him and did what Merab was going to do. I mean, it doesn't feel like it off rip. The first round you're watching and you're like, oh my God, it might be a little closer than what we thought. Second round, third round, Merab's just doing what Merab does. I can't believe people had faith. And I like Sean. I do like Sean. I've watched his fights a lot in his career, and I think he's very talented. But like we've talked about last week, Merab is just on another level.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm pretty well in that same camp. I've always said O'Malley, if you minus all of the antics and the character aspects of it, is a pretty solidly intelligent fighter at times. And I think that some of the thought process showed in this fight, as you kind of mentioned, carrying over from the first fight. You could see the cautiousness of O'Malley from the start of this thing. I mean, staying on the outside, tons of lateral movement, apprehensive to engage in any real meaningful way. And Merab is just, as he always is, locked in, ready to go, on his ass for the entirety of this thing, really hunting him down. So Merab finally does hunt him down to the extent of actually catching him. He caught him that one time early, and it looked like it might have stung him there. He was up against the cage and he sort of stumbled over. It looked like he could have tripped, or it might have been the shot that did it. Either way, something happened there. But then the trip Merab got was really, really nice. And the smother fest just begins at that point. Sean legitimately banana peel slipping after that was pretty funny. I had to note that in there.
Yes.
But so that, I mean, first round, you say, oh, a little bit closer, maybe. It was like, that's a big maybe to me, because this seemed like the Merab show from the start to finish. But Merab had a nice combo in the second. A couple nice shots from Merab actually in this fight. A couple decent singles coming out of him as well, leveling up his striking on top of his pre-existing skill set. It makes him even more lethal than he already is. So God help you if he really becomes a striker on top of everything. But, a couple decent ones there. No one can outwork Merab. Like, that's just point blank period. We've known this for a while, but this really should seal the deal for anybody who had any questions about it. You have to find your openings quickly and consistently, because the second he pulls ahead of you in a fight, he's going to stay ahead of you forever. So It's like Sean was just already kind of coming in at his disadvantage because he didn't find what he was looking for early enough. And that single shot that everyone's talking about, that's been talking about for 2 fights. Oh, the one shot, it just takes the one shot. Well, if you're not at range to do that and you're not throwing that shot, this is the outcome of that. So yeah.
I agree. I thought the first fight would have ended in the sugar snipe, but at this fight, I was way too wise to it. Being able to believe in Merab and what he's, the foundation that he's built for his career and what he's able to establish in the fights. I think it's just very important. Like, Merab is really somebody that is building the resume that is of the one of the greatest, and probably, if not already. And the fact that not only did he win this fight against Sean the second time, he didn't just take him to decision. No, he smothered him at the end of the fight and got the north-south modified, ninja choke, whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Well, that was definitely the next note there. I mean, before that, I did have that the pickup and drop off slam by Merab in the third round was pretty solid too. Enjoyed that. But then the funniest thing to me with the finish, DC on commentary, Merab isn't really that big of a threat submission wise. 1 minute later, the ending sequence of this fight. Let me talk about the ending sequence real quick, just like in its totality, because this ending sequence was really a work of art. The footwork of Merab to find not one, but 2 trips, because he got one trip that was actually really the prettier of the 2. It was like he had to like serpentine his legs to get the trip off. That was really, really nice. But then after that second trip, not as nice as far as the footwork goes, but still, did the job. It got the job done, got those 2 trips, the consistency of the pressure, and then just slipping the arm under the neck, just like Kevin Holland did earlier on the card. Actually, I mean, really, it was that easy, locking it up, getting that sub done. We talked about it last week, and you kind of mentioned it there too. Like, is he the GOAT now, or does it take one more defense? I had said that it should be one more defense after that. Maybe that still does stand, but in the moment, man, I was kind of convinced. I'm like, bro, he not only winning the fight, but actually finishing the fight this time. I'm like, that's your GOAT right there, dude. Like, I'm on board.
I agree. Merab is definitely on his way. Not on his way. I mean, like, on his way in terms of, like, Anderson Silva, GSP, John Jones, but like
solidifying.
Yes, like, he just needs to, just to continue to have a good run. Like, we need something wonky not to happen, like an injury, or, people keep pulling out of his fights. We just need him to keep on track, to be active and ready to go. He's always told Dana, like, he'll fight whoever, whenever, just let him know. Like, and I believe him. He was injured just a couple weeks ago, broke his fucking toe. He came in here and still did his fucking thing. Got the finish, the first of his career, or whatever the fuck it is, in the UFC. So
yeah,
shout out to him.
Yeah, I think he had one other one, but it might not have even been in the UFC. So yeah, pretty crazy that he does that at this stage of the game in a title fight as well. Crazy, but good stuff. Yeah, amazing. And hell of a guy too. We were talking last week about the Aljo situation, connection, whatever, him not fighting Aljo, not wanting to because of their friendship. I heard that Merab is giving his win bonus to Aljamain Sterling as a wedding gift. What a guy.
Nice.
Yeah,
Merab's cool.
Yeah, Merab, he really is. He's just a good dude. I mean, like, I enjoy him being champion. I enjoy watching his fights. He's entertaining. Now he's a finisher. On top of that, I see no wrongs here. The only other thing I wanted to briefly question here, and you kind of talked about it a little bit with the changes. We were sold a bill of goods with this fight. Sean not gooning anymore. Sean not playing video games anymore. Sean staying off of social media. Sean with the hair not being dyed. All this stuff. Sean changes all of those things and still loses this fight handily. I had said on the watch along, how long before the conversation shifts to, is Tim Welch the right coach for Sean at this point? Because Tim Welch is his longtime coach, but also his longtime best friend. They do a podcast together. They're very tight. Is this the best situation for Sean O'Malley? If you change every other circumstance except for your team, is the team the next thing to change?
No, that's definitely not even in debate because Sean's too old for it to matter. Sean's he's not necessarily old, but I mean he's already had his team up until he's 30 fucking whatever. You know, if this were Josh Van and he started to rack up losses, you'd be like, okay, maybe is it time to look into some different, some different coaches or different teams or whatever. But like, talking about next week, you have Kamaru Usman, you have Justin Gaethje. Like these are Trevor Whitman guys. Like they're not. There's no other option for them at this point. Justin Gaethje isn't just going to up and go get a new team kind of deal. Like that's just
I think
the environment.
But I think there are options if you want to make the change. I mean, it's like the first step of
Sean doesn't
overcoming a
want
problem. That's my
thinking.
point. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like, the first step of making change is admitting that there is a problem. And I don't know if Sean's going to want to admit that there's a problem because he's such good friends with his coach. Dangerous situation to be in when you're that close with your coach like that. You're not going to necessarily be getting objective opinions from your coach. I mean, so I'm just saying that there might be a continued issue with this dynamic. And something to keep in mind if it's not going to change, which, I would tend to agree with you that it's probably not. Just be aware that there might be more fights like this, because if you're not getting the coaching that you need and you don't want to change your environment, then you're stuck with what you got. And whether he's too old or whatever, I mean, like if you want to make a change, if you want a different set of circumstances for yourself, you have to be receptive to it. And if he's not going to be, then you're stuck in the situation you're in.
I agree. I mean, it's tough, but it is the sport that we have to watch, and I enjoy every moment of it because of things like this.
Exactly. So your champion retains. Congratulations to Merab, and that takes us to the end of UFC 316, Dvalishvili versus O'Malley 2. Chase, after talking it through, how do you feel about this card?
This was a good one. I mean, I don't know if I'll necessarily remember, be like, oh, do you guys remember 316? Like, I don't really go into the numbers too much when it comes, I'm here for the fights, and I'm just happy that another good week has passed with another great round of fights. So
indeed, same here. I was very happy with this card overall. I had a good time with it. Won a little bit of money, not going to brag, but just a good parlay came through. A couple people who I thought were going to win actually did.
Did you win on Josh Van? Tell me now.
I certainly did.
Good deal. And Gustafsson was a good one. That's a good play.
Yeah, Van, Tong, Gustafsson, Mirzakhanov, I believe, was the parlay. And brother, I was a happy guy because of that one. So shout out to Thinker St. James. But yeah, so that is that. You want to take a quick look at this coming week, or this week that we are in currently?
Yeah, let's take a quick look.
Yeah, we're running a little late tonight, but we had a lot to say. So let's go over some of these fights. UFC Fight Night, Usman versus Buckley. This is in Atlanta, Georgia. Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. Main event of this thing. I mean, Kamaru Usman being you talk about 1 foot out of the sport. I mean, like the fact that he is even still fighting at all is kind of crazy to me. So this seems like a little bit of a foregone conclusion, in my opinion. What are your thoughts here, Chase?
Buckley's winning this, no doubt. No doubt in my mind. Just easily gonna. Buckley is also a little goblin guy. Like, Merab's the Gremlin King. Joaquin Buckley is a little goblin too for the division. Like he is a little short, little stocky, and just kind of a little menace out there. So I kind of like the pick here. Kamaru Usman, when you look at his age, you're like, oh, he's 38. Well, he's been out for 2 years. That was like the last edge of his prime. So he clearly must not have been feeling it. And we've all know that he's got bad knees and, whatever you want to say, other health contributing issues. He's generally in great shape all the time. So I don't know how the fuck his knees are just destroyed. But
sometimes that's just the way, that's just age.
Yeah. So I would like to believe if he would have been able to compete like his last round of his contract or whatever, he would have done it 2 years ago with the last of his prime and not been like, let me take 2 years off and we'll see how we feel,
Right. Yeah. And I mean, he's podcasting now. He's doing all kinds of other things outside of in-cage activity. It's kind of crazy to me that he's even doing this at this point. I would have thought that after the Hamzat fight and a little bit of time, if you wanted to consider the decision, like Kamaru Usman would have been all right, in my opinion, if 2 months after the Hamzat fight, he was just like, yeah, guys, it's time for me to hang it up. You can hear me on my podcast now, tune in all the time. I think that would have been perfectly fine. Kamaru Usman has nothing left to prove, people. This guy is one of the most dominant champions that we've ever had, and it's only recently, it feels like, that people have been putting the proper amount of respect on his name for the accomplishments that he has. So it's like, he's got nothing left that he needs to prove in my mind. He's already done everything that he needs to and can do in this sport. The only thing left for him to do is gracefully retire. So after this, I would think it would be absolutely the appropriate time to do it. If he wins, maybe it'll be a different story, but I highly doubt that that's going to be the case. Joaquin Buckley, way too hot shotty on the rise, and actively seeking better for himself and achieving that time over time. So, you got two people on very different trajectories right now. I don't see anything good coming out of this fight for Kamaru.
100%.
All right, co-main is Rose Namajunas versus Miranda Maverick. This is a big test for Miranda finally. I mean, she's had some decent ones in the past, but this, anytime that anyone's fighting Rose, it's always going to be, considered a step up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think Miranda's probably going to go ahead and get this one done. Rose is somebody who's always been inconsistent. She's never been somebody who is, been in my eyes, somebody that I can look at least in the time that I've been watching. I cannot say this is the top talent of the division. This is somebody who deserves to be at the top of the division. She has some fluky performances. And Miranda Maverick is just the type of girl to come in at plus 225 and get this one done. And people will be like, what? No way. Like, and you're like acting like you're surprised that Rose Namajunas is not that great. So,
yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying. And, I did an entire video about Rose Namajunas and her mental state, so to speak, what contributes to her mentality and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of keenly aware of like the headspace that Rose occupies often, and that always gives me pause when making predictions with her, because it's a very inconsistent is the exact right word. You really can never gauge where she's at mentally at any given time, and that has a huge contributing factor to how she fights. She is a very emotional person, and I don't say that to be detrimental. It's more just a factual statement. Her emotions wear on her. She wears them very prominently, and that can often be to her detriment. Sometimes it can be to her benefit. Sometimes she channels that into a positive
I'm the
performance.
best.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. That is a great example of that. Sometimes that carries through, and that makes her even better than she otherwise could have been.
Which, hey, great coaching from Pat. I mean, he knows how to get her amped up. I will go ahead and say, I mean, if that's the leading case in some instances, sure, he knows how to get her amped up. I'll give it to him.
Well, we talked about this on the show prior to. She left Trevor Whitman. Pat coaching her exclusively, I do not think has been a great thing. And maybe in that little small instance, perhaps say, pep talk wise good. But as far as overall coaching goes, I think that we have seen more negative than positive out of that. When it comes to this fight, do I think that this is a winnable fight for her? Yeah, I would say so. I would say that all things being equal, her coming into it 100% fresh and mentally clear, that she should be the better fighter out of her and Miranda. Is she going to be able to do that in this fight? I don't know. This is really, I mean, the odds, she's a pretty sizable underdog, or excuse me, Rose is a sizable favorite in this fight. Miranda is a sizable underdog. I think that this should be a lot more even. This should pretty much be a pick 'em in my opinion, based on the recent careers of both ladies.
I agree.
Yeah. That all being said, now, do I think that Rose will win this fight? I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I think that Rose will be able to overcome Miranda's skill set if she comes in a clear headspace. If on the day, this is one of those ones that on the day of, if I see something that looks a little bit off, the fingers are going to start, changing things very quickly on the fly.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, no, I agree. But I think Miranda should be able to, like, she's one of these people that you always see her getting better. And that is true. Against somebody who's on the way out. So you just got to assume that the stars are going to align correctly in this one.
Yeah, I mean, on the way out, 32, maybe not.
Rose, like, I mean, if she's not mentally on the way out, I know mentally she's probably always been this way, but like, this is the signs of somebody who's just like in it because that's just what they have always done. Like, this doesn't give me hopes of like, oh, she's in it for the love of the game, or she's got glory on her mind. She's just here because Pat wants her to be a fighter. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's just what it feels like.
That's a pretty strong set of words from you on that one, but I mean, I can see where it comes from, and certainly that the situation with Pat does no favors to that perception.
Mhm.
So look, I think that the change of team for her has been very negative. So if she loses this fight, then that really will be like nail in the coffin as far as like my opinions go, and any leeway that I'll extend to her, because Miranda really is like the last, like that. Miranda is right at the level we talk about, the levels of the sport kind of thing. Miranda is trying to jump herself into the next echelon. Rose is right at the bottom of that elite category, I would say, based on her most recent performances, that certainly is lending itself to that assessment. She used to be at the top of the heap. Now she's in the lower echelon, or portion of that echelon. So if Miranda can overtake that and get herself into that position, Rose moves down into the more of the middle of the tier. And then who knows what happens after that.
Yeah, I can tell you what happens after that, but we'll continue to just see what happens.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, tentatively, I will take Rose. Just putting it out there for this one.
Okay.
All right. Next up, Edmund Shabazian, coming off a really nice win over, and he is fighting in this fight Andre Petroski. I would think that Shabazian gets this job done pretty easily.
I think you are also misunderstanding just who you're dealing with. This is another one of these guys that Vegas is dangling the carrot in front of you, telling you to bet on him, and you are just neglecting the obvious. Edmund Shabazian beat up Dylan Budka and lost to Gerald Mearshart. This is not somebody that is going to beat up the true underdog king right here. I like Andre Petroski, and I was kind of hesitant to think about it because when I saw his name, I was like, oh, Andre Petroski fights this week. I thought to myself, ooh, well, he's won a lot lately. He's not somebody that's just going to keep running through the division. At some point, something's got to give. But Edmund Shabazian, he did look good in his last performance. I will give him that. He was somebody that surprised me. But is he good enough to compete with Andre Petroski, who's maybe going to wrestle with him? I know we said that last fight, and I don't even think he ended up wrestling. But
yeah, that I think he did go like pretty strike heavy in the last one, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah,
still won. So I'm cool with
no,
it.
he definitely did. You're actually making a really good point there. I didn't consider all of that aspect of it. Budka, who has been cut from the organization since that fight. So
Yes.
yeah. I mean, Petroski,
If they cut you for getting beat by somebody, that should tell you who they got beat by. Seriously, I think that is a great indicator. If you are getting kicked out of the organization after you just lost to some random guy, that should tell you the random guy is probably not somebody who should be knocking people out of the organization.
I wouldn't say that Shabazian's necessarily a random guy, though. I mean, he's been around for a little minute. Okay,
I mean,
all right, fine. Hey, all right. Well, then fair enough if that's the thought process. You're actually kind of swaying me on this one a little bit because I was pretty like strongly in the Shabazian camp. He did get a
we've
knockout.
trusted Petroski before. That's
Yes.
that's all that I'm thinking. That's all I'm saying here. And I was hesitant to believe that we should trust him again on initial instincts. But once I saw the name, it clicked in my mind. Money. We got this. Petroski is one of these guys that one time that he lost was literally a fluke where he like ran into bro's hip bone or something. That is the only time Petroski has really like faltered in recent history. He's been pretty damn good. I like him a lot.
Wasn't he the one that won from that one? Or no, he did get out. Yeah, it was him it was Jacob Malkoon. And that's still one of the most wild
3-fight win streak since then, unanimous decision streak. So, and then before that, before the Jacob Malkoon one, he got knocked out by Michelle Bajeda. So I get it. But like even before that, there's a win streak. And then he lost to Brian Battle, the only loss before that. I'm telling you, Petroski's his record kind of ages well.
True.
When it comes to the lower ranked guys.
Yeah, no, definitely that. And also it's like I think the thing that you said that really like stuck out to me the most is the Shabazian losing to Mearshart, because it's like Petroski is either going to ineffectively strike but do it well enough that the volume gets it done, or he'll lay on top of you. and Shabazian obviously can be laid on top of because that's what the GOAT GM3 does best.
Yes, I agree.
So, all right, I will go with Petrosky based on the strength of Chase's salesmanship.
Thank you.
All right, Cody Garbrandt versus Hani Barcelos. I like this fight. I think that Hani Barcelos coming out here, proving people wrong in recent past, is now carrying over to this fight with Cody Garbrandt, who has been about as inconsistent as you can possibly get in this sport. So
I think this one is weird because Barcelos just beat Peyton Talbot, who was one of the
right,
biggest prospects in the sport at the time. So you would think with that momentum, you would leverage the company, like give me another prospect that I can destroy, like that I can just beat and ruin the hype train. But if that's not your mindset and you say, well, I want glory, right? I want to actually make some. I still want to make a run for it. I just beat Peyton Talbot. He's really good. I want to make a run for it. Is Cody Garbrandt the next fight in line for that? Like,
but
where's the mindset here after the Peyton Talbot fight?
I don't think that that like a guy like Hani Barcelos is at a level where he can pick and choose. I think that this is what the organization is offering him. And
No, you can't tell me that the organization had like Cody Garbrandt is a name. That's somebody you put up against another name. Hani Barcelos,
but the
like
problem,
I
but
don't
they
know how
didn't
he
see.
got this.
But the problem is, though, is that they did that already. They did that with him and Davison Figueiredo. We saw what happened there.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like, so that's the thing. I mean, I think that this is the problem with Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt has consistently, every time that he has been at the top of the heap and then falters himself back downwards, and then he gets a little bit farther back up, falters himself back downwards. So it's like you're in this yo-yoing pattern with him that goes back and forth. Hani, if he was about his shit, there's no way he'd be fighting Hani Barcelos. Like this is such an odd matchup in that regard. Like, I mean, Hani Barcelos is a dude whose name only really pops up when like something like Peyton Talbot happens. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when a fight like that is and when he is in a fight like that and pulls that off, that's when you remember Hani Barcelos.
Yeah.
It's really not for much else besides that. So it's like Cody Garbrandt having to be stuck with that says more about Cody Garbrandt than it does about Barcelos, in my opinion.
I can agree with that. I'm still hesitantly going to take Cody Garbrandt here.
Fair. I mean, there, the hands should still be there for Garbrandt. We know he's got a glass chin. I don't think he's going to get tested too much by Barcelos as far as the striking goes. There might be some volume there, but it's really going to be Barcelos trying to muscle him around, move him all over the place, kind of do what Davison Figueiredo did, is basically what I think he's going to try to do. Will he be able to do that? Who knows? But we'll find out. I don't think that Garbrandt's a terrible pick. I'm going to go with Barcelos, though.
Okay, I'll take you on that. 2 for 2 on Barcelos will be pretty insane. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and I think that'll maybe start having people remember his name a little bit more than just being the guy that beat Peyton Talbot.
Maybe.
All right, up next, how is this fight even real? Mansour Abdul Malik going up against the GOAT, Cody Brundage. Wow, they really want to kill Cody Brundage, man. They are done with the Cody Brundage experiment. We are sick and tired of the weirdness surrounding Cody Brundage. They're washing their hands of Cody Brundage, and Malik is going to be the guy that pours the water on.
Yeah, he's going to get a knockout. I'm very, very confident on this one. Cody Brundage is just not that fucking good. And a shout out to Mansour for coming in. He just fought in February against Nick Klein, and he's coming back and getting somebody who's a name on his plate. And I think that's very important for somebody who wants to be at the top of the division. 8-0, not necessarily the highest promise for somebody yet, but Cody Brundage is not somebody who's at the top of the division. So this is like kind of an easy matchup, I would say.
I think that the only real thing to be concerned about here is possibly the wrestling of Cody Brundage, because somehow he ends up being like, he's one of those guys that's not really technically proficient wrestling wise, but still somehow pulls shit off. So like, I would think that there might be some threat there. We're going to see if Abdul Malik has, takedown defense, like really about it, like that's going to be something good to see here. I could see Brundage tying him up a little bit, getting him in the clinch, perhaps, like that kind of thing might end up happening to negate some of the power. But if there is any time that he is at range, every fight is going to start at range and every fight's going to start on the feet. So, I think that throughout the course of this thing, if Abdul Malik can stay the course, negate all of the stuff that Brundage is going to be bringing to the table, this should be another pretty solid win for him. I'm definitely thinking that he should get the job done, and so is Vegas, considering he is a minus 750 favorite in this fight.
Oh yeah, I agree. Shout out to Mansoor.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's one of those guys that I had a feeling about early on seeing him on the Contender Series. All right, Alonzo Menifield versus Omar Sy. Sy being the French dude who wrestles pretty well and is 11-0. So going up against Alonzo Menifield, bigger test for him, even though Alonzo Menifield is kind of spotty.
I'm taking Mr. Umar Sy by submission on this one because Alonzo Menifield is not somebody who's decent at all. He's somebody who will walk straight into Carlos Ulberg's punches in the first minute and get flatlined. Omar Sy is somebody who's relentless when it comes to his wrestling, not necessarily going to strike at all. Like, I mean, he's not somebody who's going to use it as a fallback or a plan B. I mean, he doesn't. Wrestling is his thing. That's what he wants to do. He wants to wrestle, and he knows he's good at it. He has the limbs that make him a very unique wrestler because he's very long. He's got crazy length to his limbs. I think that's going to make him be able to get a submission here very easily.
I would agree. Another huge favorite here. Sy is a minus 700. I would say if you are a gambler's gambler kind of deal, you want to throw a little bit of cash around, maybe put some small money on Menifield by knockout, because it is possible that he might catch him, maybe. But Menifield is just one of those guys that is okay across the board, in my opinion, like in just that, you know what I mean? So that being said, yeah, I mean, Sy is probably a slam dunk, but there might be some potential for Menifield by knockout.
100%.
Moving on to the prelims here, Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Bellato. This fight being rebooked after Bellato had an unfortunate flare-up of herpes. Back and hopefully healthy now. Well, we already talked about this one before. Has anything changed in your mind?
No, probably not. Rodolfo's probably going to win via herpes.
Win with herpes would be an unconventional method of victory, but perhaps he makes it work for him. I mean, I don't know. I want to believe that Paul Craig is not done, but Bellato is better than I had given him credit for in the past, and Paul Craig has been a bit of a letdown more times than I would like to see from him. So it's hard to back him at this point.
Yeah, I can hear that. Yeah, Bellato is not somebody that I would say I overestimated or underestimated before. I can tell you for fact that he got dropped by Ihor Potieria on short notice, and the ref should have stopped it. I've talked about this plenty of times. So that has always stuck out to me, that if Ihor Potieria could be the dude that can almost end your fucking dreams, you might not be as good as people are saying. But I digress. He did win that fight by finish, so what can you say?
Yeah. So, I mean, Rodolfo being the favorite in this fight probably makes sense. And if he does beat Paul Craig, then that's probably the end of the line for Paul Craig, I would say. And that's sad to have to say. He's a dude who I thought had a lot of promise earlier on in his career, but it's just not been working out the way that it should have.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Michael Chiesa versus Court McGee. Why is Court McGee still fighting, brother? It's probably time to hang it up, but Chiesa also a long-time guy, so maybe this is more even than I'm giving it credit for.
I hate to break it to you. I'm finally going to go ahead and pick Michael Chiesa to win a fight. I think it's rightfully so this time. I mean, Michael Chiesa actually looked pretty decent in his last one. I think he won by submission. I think it was the Darce choke or something like that.
Talking about against Tony?
Michael Chiesa definitely has fought since Tony.
What's his last one?
Max Griffin.
Oh, yes, against Max Griffin. Got you. Yes.
So finished him very quickly. I thought he actually looked pretty decent for a guy with a gray beard. I'll go ahead and take Chiesa on this one.
I'm agreeing. Yeah, I mean, Court McGee is a dog. He's a a road warrior kind of guy for sure. He's been around forever. The record reflects that. Good guy, good fighter overall. But at this point, it's probably past time for him to have been hung it up. And Chiesa is probably just going to be that much fresher. So, Chiesa is good with the submissions, and Court's a wrestling guy too. So it's probably going to be pretty actively on the, an active ground exchange throughout a good part of this fight early, but Chiesa will find the neck.
Yeah, I agree. I think Chiesa by submission is also a good shout on this.
Yeah, for sure. Now, this fight really makes me sad because this is the new Chad, Malcolm Wellmaker. This kid is a stud. This is the kid that, if you recall, on this show, we have said he is so good that we forget him because
Mhm.
he's knocking people out so quickly that it's hard to remember the guy.
Yeah,
But, he's doing his damn thing. But he is going up against the legend, Chris Mutino, the
I
greatest punching bag ever to exist.
I want you guys to understand just how legendary Chris Matino is because this is a guy who I saw for one singular fight in the UFC against Sugar Sean O'Malley, and he's the one dude that I can tell you did not get finished by Sean and was standing in his face, walking him down, letting him punch him in the face, and the ref had to decide to stop it. I'm telling you, it was one of the more scandalous things I've ever seen for them to stat pad Sean O'Malley's resume. Chris Mutino is an absolute Chad, and I've never forgotten his name because of just how much of a fucking Chad he is. This dude don't give a fuck, and the fact that he's coming in here to fight Malcolm Wellmaker, holy shit, guys! This guy, he's got fucking nuts. I tell you, if they are not big old britches that he wears in the morning, golly, oh man, this dude is just that fucking guy.
It's true. The fact that this is on the prelims is wild to me. This should be a main card fight for sure. Malcolm Wellmaker has been just running through his opponents. Chris Mutino does not go down. This guy is iron chin. But that being said, this has potential for it to be a repeat of exactly what happened in the O'Malley fight because Wellmaker has beautiful hands. I mean, the power and the accuracy of this guy's striking is really, really solid for the position that he's in this sport, just starting out. And Mutino, I mean, he has racked up a really nice win streak outside of the organization in his time away, but that don't mean shit. So, coming in here against a dude like Wellmaker, who's really surging right now, I think that Mutino is going to get so pieced up, and I really hate that because I like the guy. I want to see better for him.
I think Chris Mutino actually is going to get finished on this one. I know it's not necessarily what we want to see and what we believe will happen because he didn't by Sean. Why would we believe it can happen now? Wellmaker, he's a different type of striker. He's not throwing straights. He's throwing these big old bombs from his hip. He's a gunslinger. I love to think that about him. He closes his eyes and just throws punches. And that's exactly the type of dude you got to be sometimes. Chris Mutino, is definitely going to go down in infamy. I think this is one of the cooler dudes. I think he could have a similar run to someone as of like a Vince Morales, where I think I've said that before. Somebody who's just going to get fans just by being totally game and giving you the matchup that you need to see the prospects have. That's a key component. You can't be the person that gives the prospects the boring fights at 3 rounds. No, you make it fucking worrisome for them. If you get Raul Rosas in a Peruvian necktie for the round before the bell, like, bingo, I like it. I'm good. That's all I needed to see. So shout out to Chris Mutino. I really hope he makes this like very, very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Like Mutino reminds me of like he's like a gatekeeper. He's a gatekeeper, but he's the gatekeeper of the first gate. And that's a
Yeah.
really like bad position to be in, like he's welcoming these guys in who are like just starting out, and that's just an unfortunate position, but like he's just a dude that you want to root for. And I think that hopefully that will carry him through, and God, please give this guy a favorable matchup after this. Like,
Yeah.
if this is going to stat pad Wellmaker a little bit, that's fine. Give this guy something that he can sink his teeth into at some point because the fans want it. We want to see him succeed,
Yeah, I agree.
That's why
100%.
he's back. That's the only reason he's back too, is because of the fan outcry.
We've been asking long enough. They brought him back because they assumed Sean was going to win the belt, and this was going to be the rematch of the century. That's all I'm saying.
And the rematch is still possible at this point, so we'll have to see.
Sean cannot get a title shot until he goes through Chris Mutino. I have said this plenty of times.
Brother, I like that. That should be absolute facts for sure.
All
right, moving on down the line here. Cody Durden back again, going up against Jose Ochoa. Not too much of an opinion about this fight. What are you thinking here?
I think I got a great opinion. Banger. Fight of the night right here, probably, because these dudes are going to go after it. And then Jose Ochoa is going to win by submission, probably.
Okay. All right. Strong opinion indeed there. I'll go with it. 7-1 Ochoa. it's kind of a pick 'em though. He's a minus 180 favorite in this one.
Mhm.
Durden's one of those guys. He's a tough dude. He finds submissions, kind of like through the fire and the flames almost sometimes. He really
Yeah,
has to like go through hell in order to pull it off. If Jose Ochoa can, give him hell early enough and hard enough, then yeah, I would see him probably being able to pull it off and Durden not being able to come up successful.
I agree. Yeah, I think this will be a good one. Fight of the night, though.
Oh, all right. I mean, if it's going to be a banger like that, I'm certainly keeping my eyes out now.
All right, I
Which
gotta interrupt you. This
Sure.
next fight, this is not the fight that's happening. It got
Oh,
canceled just a little bit ago.
damn it.
Ricky
That sucks.
Simone is now going to be fighting. Get this, you ready? Drum roll. Cameron Simon.
Okay. Well, that changes everything. I mean, not really, because I was already going to be taking Ricky Simone in this matchup. But if he's fighting Cameron Simon, I am absolutely taking Ricky Simone.
Ricky kills that kid. So
Ricky
let's go ahead and
Simone.
get this one done. Blonde hair, Ricky kills the kid. I don't know about the brown hair guy. Whoever that one is, I don't know.
Yeah, no, mythical fighter unlocked, blonde Ricky Simone, and yeah, I mean Simon's just been floundering. He's one of those dudes that it's like you thought it would be cool if it worked out because he is sort of a lanky kind of youngling. And he had a little bit of early success, even though he was just a dirt ball of a fighter. I always can never get out of my head the fact that he like racks up foul after foul. But either way, Simone as a fucking veteran with knockout power, who really, I mean, I think wasn't it Ricky Simone that just was tweeting out about, I think he's one of the people that beat Marab, right?
He did choke him out.
There you go.
I think the bell saved him though, or something like that. But
yeah, so I mean, so he didn't actually win the fight, but he'd gotten robbed.
I could be wrong, but
I thought that, yeah, because I think that the meme was like, he was pulling the Adesanya, the guy in the bar saying, I beat that guy once.
Yeah, he did beat Marab via submission. Yep, it was his first fight in the organization.
So, I mean, I think that should tell you everything that you need to know about Ricky Simone going into a fight with Cameron Simon, who has been just a pipsqueak who's gotten a couple of wins, but not, nothing impressive. Ricky Simone is going to annihilate him.
I agree. Pipsqueak is actually hilarious. Like that's pretty fucking funny.
I mean, if the shoe fits, right?
True. All right.
All right, Phil Rowe versus Angelosa. Made a whole video about my opinions on Angelosa. They have not changed. I'm not a fan of this guy. Phil Rowe, not great. Talked about Phil Rowe just recently, calling out Wes Watson. That's a whole nother story. If you want to watch the video on the channel, go to the video section of the Yama channel. But what are your opinions on this fight?
I hate to say it, but Ange is going to win this one.
I think that you're probably right. Now, well, the only thing I'll say is that Phil Rowe is a jiu-jitsu guy. Like he's like a ground game specialist type of dude. So he might be able to get him to the ground. He might be able to do his groundwork on Ange. But Ange has such a strong base. His body, he's like almost the Torres Finney body type, he's short, squat, but super jacked. I think that's going to make him very hard to take down. And Phil Rowe just, physically, I don't think is going to be up to the task of actually getting him to the ground. So,
right.
Yeah, I think Ange is probably the safer bet on here. You said, how'd you say he was going to do it?
By decision. Yeah, it's going to be boring.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. I don't think Ange gets the shot that he wants. He doesn't really have great power in his hands to begin with, even for being as jacked as he is. So I think it's going to be very grindy fight when Phil Rowe has his hands on him. If Ange breaks, he might land a couple of shots. Phil goes back in, gets him up against the cage, et cetera, et cetera. I think that Ange does end up getting the victory.
Yep, I agree.
All right, and to end this card off, Jamie Lynn Horth going up against Vanessa Demopoulos. We talked about this a little bit in the Discord. You're a fan of Jamie Lynn Horth.
I am actually a very big fan of Jamie Lynn Horth. She's somebody who's not been here too long. She doesn't have too many fights on her record, but she is somebody who has beaten, why did I think it was Luana Santos that she beat? Maybe I am sadly mistaken. Okay, my apologies. She lost to Miranda Maverick, though, but I do remember Jamie Lynn Horth for a reason. She got the three names. I do remember that. So I'm excited to see this. Vanessa Demopoulos is somebody that I've had a lot of stake in before. She is from Ohio, and I do appreciate everything that she's done, but I don't see her winning this one, unfortunately. And I saw her winning the last one, so that should tell you, I'm trying here.
Well, I think that the difference between this fight and her last fight is that Horth is not going to try to take her down at all.
Mhm.
Horth is really just a stand and bang type of chick. She's a grindy fighter as well on the feet. So I think that this is a better, more favorable matchup for Demopoulos as far as what the dynamics of the fight are going to be. And she gets pretty violent sometimes, Demopoulos. I mean, she actually does like go out there and really like put her all into it when it's the type of fight that she wants. So for that reason, I will take Demopoulos in this one. I think that she might be able to overwhelm Horth with sheer will. But if it goes to the ground at all in any capacity, then yeah, Horth all day because Demopoulos has nothing on the ground.
I mean, you got to remember Jamie Lynn Horth is on paper 5'7", probably 5'9" if we're talking about
Yeah,
females' height.
she is
Vanessa
massive.
Demopoulos is 5'2".
Yeah, that is true.
And that's maybe being gracious. Like she might be 5 foot. Like we don't know. So
Yeah, no, I mean Horth certainly will have the height advantage. That's absolutely going to be the case. But I just think that it's the fact that she doesn't want to mix anything up is the issue. Because I mean,
yeah,
we know that Demopoulos, the second that you put her on her back, she's nothing. I mean, like she will not be able to get up from the ground. Period. End of story. Take her down. That's all you have to do.
yeah,
So if it goes to the ground, Horth might have some shot there. Maybe she's watched tape. That would be
yeah.
good. If
I
she
agree.
comes into it informed, maybe she has a chance that way. But if it does stay on the feet as I'm expecting it to go, I think Demopoulos will be able to out tough her.
We'll see. Jamie Lynn Horth was a DoorDash driver that I had for one time, so I would like to believe that she's out here fighting for the real cause. So
That's right. She's recently married. The last win paid for her honeymoon, so she's got a wife that she got to take care of back at home. So I
true.
mean, this is a big deal. So she's fighting. She's got more on the line than others might. But
Hell yeah.
Vanessa's out there doing it for all the ex strippers of the world. So
Uh, you are not wrong there. Shout out her.
indeed. So we will watch all of these fights, of course, on our individual watch-alongs. You can find myself generally with the Vitz King on the Yama channel. That's youtube.com/@Yama Show. And Chase, I know that you can tell them where they can find you and 20,000 people from Myanmar.
Yeah, absolutely. They can find us having a good time on youtube.com/@CP Smalls. And then on Twitter, you can find me hanging around being the local spokesman for Myanmar at x.com/Creative Parton, Partin.
I am at Yama Show on Twitter and Instagram. Follow there as well. New episode of Yama, hopefully coming out this week. I am going to make my absolute best effort to make that happen, and I should be able to. So keep an eye on the channel for that. And tomorrow is the Ultimate Fighter. I will be here doing my watch along live. Chase will do his sometime thereafter. So keep your eyes open on both channels for that. And as always, people, until we see you next time, take good care and fight on.